I'm going to be debating Rose Mulet on music. I think specifically there's like two takes that I kind of want to harp on. Let's see. One, the whole... I knew there was some fucking bot shit going on. Alright. But yeah, I'm supposed to be debating the last on whether, like, all music should be thought-provoking, which... If you've listened to music for, like, a fraction of a second... Like, it seems pretty odd. And the whole jazz is barbaric thing, probably gonna be a good meme. Speaking of which, let's can I get some like Persona 5 shit? I'm gonna get copyright struck, but like fucking. Like let's see. Was it like this one? Are you familiar with Robert Byrd's Barbaric Rant? No, I don't know. This is a long build-up. Come on. Hold on. It's a good 2-minute meme from the 2000s. Okay, why not? Fuck it. While I'm getting shit going. But this is the stuff that Rose Mulet would say is not thought-provoking. You know, actually, no. I shouldn't probably poison the well this early. I probably shouldn't do that. It's probably a bad idea. Let's see. Can I pull that up in a separate browser window? Like so. And then... here we go.
Barbaric. Let that word resound.
Let's...
hill to hill.
Here we go, boys.
And from mountain to mountain. From valley to valley.
Facts.
Across this broad land. Barbaric. Barbaric.
Facts.
May God help. Those poor souls.
This man, the look on his face, he's just calling out to all of the great American patriots who see the barbarism that is jazz music. And he's like, we must stop this. Shit.
Who would be so cruel? Barbaric. Hear me.
Hear me. I'm hearing you.
Barbaric.
I'm hearing you, bro.
Such practices as starvation of the poor animal to encourage malice.
Wait, what is this speech in reference to? I'm curious.
Endurance are common. It involves teaching the dog to maul.
Do you know who Michael Vick is? Not really, no.
Smaller animals.
Is he a guy who beat animals?
Cats. Or rabbits.
And like abuse them? Is that what's up?
Or small dogs. As training bait. The results of this most cruel business reaches beyond the fighting ring.
Beautiful. What was this in reference to? Ah, yeah. About dog fighting. At the time he gave this address, he was third in the line of succession for the presidency. Famous NFL quarterback, huge scandal around 2008, where it came out he ran a dogfighting ring. Ah. See, I was like 7 when that probably happened. So, forgive me for not knowing that little bit of lore. Let me see if she's ready. But yeah, we'll be taking this same mentality when fighting, or not fighting, when when debating the Rose Mulet. Let's see, what would be a good fucking meme here? What would be a good meme? Barbaric! This music is truly barbaric. Because it slays. That's right, I made a shitty pun. How does it feel to hear a shitty pun? Live on air. And to listen to me talk about it and beat it into the ground. Somehow I'm making Persona 5 music boring. Oh, she's ready. Shit. Hold on. Will it work? Hello?
Hi, you live?
Howdy.
Hey, how are you?
I am doing alright.
Are we live right?
Currently we are. To what I'm assuming is like whatever like I'm watching, and then one other person named Puppy Puncha.
Nice. You have the feel free to put this on your YouTube. Put my name in the title. Like
There you go. Yeah,
the only reason I'm not retweeting and advertising this is because I'm like gone off of Twitter.
True that. That's fair.
Although if you want me to, I can retweet it real quick.
Personally, I don't really care that much. This is probably going to be like the last stream that I do until college things start getting in order, and then
your last stream, you said?
Well, yeah, like this. I like go. I do like 1 or 2 streams every like few months, and then I disappear off of the streaming world.
Oh, that's
and
fair.
Just shit post on Twitter.
Yeah, I just started school back on Thursday, which probably is motivating one of my decisions. Like, I have a bunch of things going on at the moment. Obviously, today, I don't want to really address what happened today, but yeah, I mean, I can if you want, but today was not a good day. I'm just kind of moving on, but I already promised you I'd talk to you, so.
That's fair.
Yeah. That's where my mind's at.
I mean, how connected is it to the tweet about she doesn't like jazz music, what's her music like?
It's somewhat connected. It's not 100% because it was a bunch of things, but that was one of the bunch of things, if that makes sense.
Alright, I figured that probably had a role in that sort of thing.
Yeah, but it wasn't the only thing. Dare I say it might not even be the primary thing, but it might be. I don't fucking know.
That's fair. I probably won't speculate further on that. Just
if I could try to tell you, it was just like so many things at once that my mind was just overwhelmed.
Yeah, fair. I mean, shit happens.
Oh, for sure.
But yeah.
100%.
So I'm not gonna pull up the exact tweets now because like I'm kind of just looking to see where your mind is at. When you said that like music shouldn't have like shouldn't be thought provoking, I'm curious about what you meant about that.
Okay, so I know when I say that's like why would you say that? So I'm not saying that music can't necessarily be deep. Like there can be songs out there that have like really beautiful messages that really connect with people. Obviously, if you're making a song and it connects with somebody, that's a bonus. But like that should be like the afterthought. Right, and it's like it's amazing if you can pull everything off, but we have to realize as like an art form, music is so different from like let's say film or like TV or book or like any other form of entertainment, right? On all those other forms of entertainment, you're telling a story, you're focusing more on that. Like if you're watching a film, you're very particular of the words you use and how you say them.
I
If you're writing a
mean,
book, it's the same way.
I'm already gonna like disagree here and say that like music can definitely tell a story. Like in general, just like even with like today's like pop music, you can still generally find like some level of a story involved with like how the music flows and all that. Like you can go into like the verses and all that. It
Well,
just
yeah.
that the lyrics alone kind of do that, but then like the certain like a melodic choice, some basic stuff like with like ascending, descending notes, like
No, it's
or
absolutely. But what I sorry,
but no, you're good. You're good. Go ahead.
I don't. Or were you going to say something? I'm going on for a while, so if you have
No,
something
no.
to say, feel free to say.
I mean like
Okay.
from like what I gathered from that, it was just like music shouldn't be thought provoking, as in like music, like it shouldn't be like a thing at all. I think that's where I was coming from with that.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, what I have to think is when it comes to music, you have to think of what are the strengths of music. What is the one thing about music that differentiates it from every other art form and the one thing that makes it special? Like, why would someone choose to listen to a song over anything else? And the reason is because of those melodies. The reason is because of the musicality of it all, right? Like, if you hear music, you want to enjoy like a catchy melody or a beautiful tune or whatever, different genres appeal to different people and different like needs and stuff. But there's something about like something being pleasant to the ear that it enjoys. Like human or music is an essential thing of human culture. It's been around for a long time, right? So when you compare it to these other art forms, I can think of like a bajillion different art forms where you can go so far in depth, tell the most, you know, deep story ever with all of these like things. And it's like, well, you think about music, right? Like in songs, you have to like rhyme every bar and you can build a lot of this like poetry, but it's like that's going to limit it in some way. But you do the rhyming thing because the rhyming is going to make the song sound better. It's going to make it flow better, but that's going to cause the sacrifice of telling the best story. The songs are usually like 3 minutes long. Well, that's going to sacrifice like a really like thought-provoking long story because most stories you can't really tell that much in like 3.5 minutes. So it's like if you look at those things and it's like that's because it serves a different purpose, right? And I don't believe that's really what the art form is there for. Not to say that there's not exceptions to the rule because there are, but I feel like if you're looking at music as oh, I like this song because it's so thought-provoking, I feel like you know people I'll never understand that. I feel like people are looking at it the wrong way. I don't know. I mean, maybe it's an unconventional way to view it. To me, it's always just been obvious like that. Sorry if I've been talking so long.
I guess if we're talking in terms of like how like most people consume pop music in general, like
Yeah.
typically when typically the most like popular music in some ways like is that sort of way. It's like generally like melodic. The story is put on the back line, but I don't necessarily think that the like a story first like basis isn't like necessarily on the back burner. I can think of like a lot of songs that were popular that told like a very like a like an intense story of like someone's like thought processes about like a certain event that they went through. Um,
Yeah.
uh,
No,
like I could. I'm gonna speak from like more for like my experiences with like how I grew up with music, but like Linkin Park, like back when like Hybrid Theory and Meteora in their like top form, basically, their songs like In the End, that sort of thing like spoke to kind of a bit more of like a dark feeling and like a lot of like your teens and like a 20s folk who felt like who felt like quite frankly I'd say a bit like nihilistic
yeah.
about things, and I feel like that sort of thing speaks to them, and I think like that that music can sort of like provide like a sort of like outlet for them to like relate to in that sense, and see that like, oh, it's not just like me. There's like other people who like the song, who understand that song and like can feel that sort of thing with them. And I
Well,
think that
no,
music
no.
is good for like evoking feelings out of people, uh,
Oh, definitely. Sorry.
which I do think is like a form of like thought provoking. In that sense, I think music is very good at invoking feelings, and kind of like relating people's experiences to the music that they listen to.
Yeah, I mean, music can be thought provoking depending on like the songs you listen to. But like, I guess to me, and maybe this is more of a personal taste than anything. If I don't, I feel like music is just more like I'm enjoying the experience. You know, this is something cool. Like the Green Day example, like there's plenty of examples like that. To me, that just seems
I
like
mean,
a
Green Day
cool.
can be like one of those things. Like the Green Day is a bit more like political in that sense.
Well, yeah. What I'm saying is like to me, that's an example of this is a song that resonated with a lot of people because of the culture at the time, because the message that's being spoken in the song, you know, basically fits how a lot of people are feeling. And you can say that with like a lot of pop songs too. Like even the most basic like pop songs, be like, oh, you know, this person dumped me and cheated on me, and here's an aggressive song on how they suck. Like, well, that's gonna resonate with some people.
Yeah.
And then you have a song about like, you know, how we're so in love and this is like, you know, our relationship. Like that's gonna resonate with people who like, you know, feel that. Or you could have like a song about how like the haters on Twitter are really getting to me, and this is my song against the haters. Like that's gonna
Or
get.
or
Yeah,
you could have a song that's just Gucci Gang for like 1 minute straight, and that's the song.
oh, I'll tell you. I have a video on my Instagram that's oh I'm gonna make it. It's all the worst hit songs like ranked of the 2010s, and I'll tell you, Gucci Gang is pretty low on that list. I feel like with Gucci Gang, that was like I'll never understand why that was popular. That
I
was
think it's the same way in like how Morbius is popular, that it's like a good song to just shit on.
dude. I feel like that was just like a collective experience. People like had a good laugh about it. Like people
Right.
all came together being like, "Oh my god, like
It's
Gucci Gang,
like,
my little punk."
but like it got him like a lot of fucking hits though.
Dude,
For
like,
it's,
sorry.
no, you're
Songs
fine.
are huge. Like usually when we have like a joke song, like a Rebecca Black Friday, or like I mean, you can think of like so many freaking examples. Usually they don't chart that well. Usually they don't like actually become big hits. But like with Gucci Gang, that was a legit hit. That hit like number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100, which I don't know, like I'm a chart nerd, so like I know all about like chart statistics. But like number 3 on the Hot 100 is like insane. Like usually like joke songs like Gangnam Style hit number 2. Like Old Town Road, Harlem Shake hit number 1. But like most
See,
like
Gangnam Style. Like, sorry, I'll let you finish actually, because I was
no,
just
no,
gonna
no, you're
fucking
good, you're
meme.
good. Yeah, exactly. All I was saying is that like usually meme songs don't, but like those are like a few like meme songs that like can transcend that stuff. But what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say something dumb, like a hot take. Gangnam Style introduced the world to what K-pop could truly be, and BTS was clearly just following in Psy's steps, like 100%.
Well, I would
Clear.
say, I mean, Psy walked so BTS could run. I think that's a fair thing
Indeed.
to say. Like, there's a point to be making that, like, yeah, he absolutely did introduce an American audience to K-pop, and you know, the seeds that really didn't sow for like many years afterwards. But you know, it was just really interesting. That was a whole cultural moment, and people didn't take that song seriously. But with like BTS, they have rapid dance. It's insanity. But anyway, sorry, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I guess well at the end of that, like going back to the conversation, I think it's a bit like useless to talk about like what music should and shouldn't be. Like it's fine to talk about like their strengths and weaknesses, but I think when we're making statements like music should be this way or music shouldn't be this way, inevitably, like just on a personal level, you would end up feeling like a bit of a music snob in that sense.
No, yeah, definitely.
And then on the other hand, it's like more broadly speaking, it would imply like a very like heavy limiting of like what music could end up being in that sense.
I guess, and that's fair. You know, I completely understand it. I guess my perspective comes from, like, It's so weird because, like, I love pop music, but everybody in like the music reviewing scene, it's just all the time I see people who love these like really edgy, like maybe like rock or emo, and it's like I've never felt like part of that community, and they've always felt very different. Like I'll see Anthony Fantano, who I'm not like a huge fan of, but like it's a long fucking story. But like I've seen his videos, and he'll like give a 10 to this like album, and I listen to it, and I'm just like, how? Because this music does nothing for me, and it's just really fascinating to see like the disconnect from someone like me, who's like I guess I consider myself a music reviewer, but I'm not a music reviewer in the sense that I have a very different taste from like the vast majority who will say like, oh, Death Grips, Swans, like Daughters, like all these fucking groups that I don't listen to are like the best thing ever. And I'm just like, I'm just so I don't know. It's like I feel like this is not as much about music as I do. Um, I just see it in a different way. I think of like Max Martin, who's like a really like popular. Like he's produced many number one hits, and he's like a Swedish guy. And sometimes he doesn't. I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't think he knows the English language that well. But like when he's writing songs, he thinks about like melody first and like message second. And I see that, and that kind of inspires me in how I mean, I could be misquoting him, but I mean, think about it this way. I mean, there's songs like Despacito is a song that like most Americans
Mm-hmm.
listening to it, they didn't know what those words meant, but they resonated with the song because, hey, wait, the song sounds really catchy. Wait, the song, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can have a song and you
Mm-hmm.
don't understand anything that's being said, but like the pure emotions of what's being sung and the pure melodies can still connect with somebody. Whereas, like, you can't really watch a movie and not understand what anybody's saying and still have that experience. So, I mean,
I mean, sure, but then I could just pull back and say that that can still be a version of like thought provoking. That even if someone may not understand the lyrics of what they're saying, that the melodies themselves can carry that message forward regardless. And I think that can be said about a lot of like say film scores. Like you can like pull up anything from like say like a Star Wars film, like Duel of the Fates. Like from like the get go that you're going to be listening to something that's like very dramatic, and it's like a clash between like two different like sort of I guess ideals in that sense. Ultimately, if we're connecting it back to like say the Star Wars film, but even on its own, it still holds that sort of thing because you have like that fast pace, the sort of like the choir like kind of like carrying this whole like dramatic feel to it, and I just think that like we can't sit. It's like a chicken and egg problem basically is what I'm getting at. Is that saying that music shouldn't be this sort of like thought provoking thing? Like I think that music being thought provoking is inevitable, regardless of like what kind of genre you fall into. And I think that in this case, like neglecting that sort of that music can carry a meaning outside of like whatever lyrics it provides or like whatever like specific element you're using to like convey a message. Like I think you can still find ways to like make music thought provoking without having to like without having to directly like speak to the audience. And when you bring up that guy that I forget his name.
yeah.
What was the like? Was he like Swedish or Finnish or something?
Oh, Max Martin.
Yeah. When you bring up like Max Martin and how he like puts like melody first, that melody can still carry a message of sorts. It can still like you're a bit limited in the fact that like it kind of has to be put within like the context of like whatever like the title of the song is, and then the supporting like melodies for that stuff. But I still think you can carry a message. I guess I'm kind of just rambling on, but yeah.
Well, you absolutely can. Like, the film score thing is interesting. Like, an instrumental itself can make you feel like if you construct an instrumental away, you can get a really specific mood just from like the instruments you use, the way the melody's structured, like the key you use, like going up on a scale or down on a scale. Like, there are things you can do, right? I feel like that is definitely still limited in a way. It's definitely like an art and a craft. Like there are people like I'm not one of these people, but I've seen like you people on YouTube being like, oh yeah, I listen to film scores in my free time. I've never understood that, but there is something there. Like obviously, it has to convey a scene that's playing, and in my opinion, it really is like background music, but it's like background music that's like masterfully done because it's like you have to think about like what do we want the viewer to feel, and music can craft that in a way that other stuff can't. It can really elevate a scene. It can absolutely do that, but it's not like the primary like storyteller. Like you can't watch a movie or tell like a full like character arc purely through music. Like you could have a lot of feelings and emotions to get like a general gist of like, oh, so this is where this is supposed to happen, right? Oh, this is where that. But it's like it's not the same, and it's like you absolutely can. I mean, by technicality, I'm sure there is like thought-provoking music out there. It probably does exist, and I'm not denying that, right? But that kind of music's typically not what gets popular, and even if it does, it's usually a rare circumstance. Because it's like oftentimes, if you want to be thought provoking and be successful in like popular music, or I mean, to me, I just focus on popular music, right? That's what I focus on.
Mhm.
But like, you have to cross a very fine line. I feel like very few people are able to do that, and I'm just thinking like if you're making a song and your first thought is I want to convey a thought-provoking message, and you're not concerned about the melody, you're not concerned about like anything else, and you're willing to like, and I've seen like songwriters do this. I've talked to people who they focus on that first, and I hear how it like makes the song suffer, and I don't know, maybe this is just like a me
I mean, honestly, I disagree. There's like a, if we're actually, I'd probably walk back and ask like what you mean by thought provoking, and then in this case, like, what does it mean for like a piece of music to be thought provoking to you? Because I think that's probably going to be the main hang up at this point.
You know, I haven't really thought about it a ton. Like there are some songs that like want to be really deep and like being like, I actually, I don't want to say anything particular because I don't want to say like a song can't be about like a certain topic or be about a certain thing. But even if a song chooses to like focus on that topic,
Yes.
usually it's gonna be like
Yeah,
a
I'm gonna
very
clean later. I
surface
was clean
level,
later.
kind of like, oh, this is like a story that this person's been through. This is something that I can relate to. This is like usually you're gonna put it in a way that like most people listening can understand. They don't have to put much thought into it. Because if you're putting so much thought into the lyrics of a song, you're not really enjoying it in the same way that you would typically enjoy a song. I mean, maybe this would just be personal preference. I don't know. When I listen to music, I just want to sit down, relax, like have a good time. Like, yeah, the lyrics can and absolutely have resonated with me before. I'm not saying that like it'd be stupid to like negate that altogether. But there's a certain point. It's like okay, like I'm not trying to listen to like a college essay. I just want to like get a good vibe. I want to like I don't know.
I mean, I think that could just be how you consume music in that sense, and by all means, that's nothing like wrong per se. But it you gotta think that it sounds like really weird if like you kind of just sit there and say music shouldn't be this, or like music should be that, and kind of just base it solely on like how you consume music. Like if you're just going for like I want vibes, cool. I like having vibe music. Like lo-fi is a thing because people want like calm vibes with their music. People want to just chill and have background music. Some other people want to like have a way to connect like their personal experiences to music, and that's where you get a lot of like the Taylor Swifts and like your pop stars that talk about like breakups and shit like that, or like among other things. That's kind of like the thing that I'm pulling from there in that case.
Well, yeah, and I don't want to downplay it because it's like, I mean, maybe this comes off as like I don't care that much about music. That's not true, and maybe I'm not good at conveying this. I care a lot about music. I listen to music a lot. It's
Mm-hmm.
something that I put like, I mean, I wouldn't be putting videos on YouTube breaking all of my favorite pop songs. That's something I think most people don't do if I didn't deeply care. And I feel like somebody could listen to what I'm saying and think that I'm like devaluing the art form, being like, well, Rose, you love music so much. Why would you say that? Like, you listen to music so much, you make all these videos. Why are you purposely devaluing this art form that you love so much? And it's like, to me, I don't see it as devaluing. I see it as like it's going for something different, and because it's different, it's beautiful. And this is gonna sound really out of topic, but I'll like think of it this way. I believe it's gonna sound random, but I promise it'll make sense. I believe that like men and women are very different, and like men and women doing different things is cool. Like women who like stay at home provide an essential service, and it's very important. But it's very different from like a man who works like 8 hours a day and does a job. But I feel like this way it's like other forms of art, like you're sitting down, you're writing a huge like thought-provoking message about society and like whoa. And whereas with music, it's like this other beautiful thing that serves a different purpose, and I don't believe that just because it serves a different purpose that it makes it less valuable. I would say like the fact that it can be its own thing, and like I feel like that makes it very valuable. I don't know. It's just the way that I personally do it.
I mean, I feel like you can use like music to like do a lot of different things besides just like have like a catchy melody. I think that having that sort of mindset is like fairly limiting. That all music should be are like catchy melodies, because I don't even think that kind of like captures like what music even is in general, because the reason why those catchy melodies exist is to carry a sort of mood, some sort of theme, and those themes can indeed be like something that falls under like thought provoking.
Well,
And
I think
I just don't know like at this point where you'd say like I don't know, like to me, just like focusing on just like the whole like melody first thing, and not like analyzing like where, or not analyzing, not like considering where like why those melodies exist. I think it's a bit like very surface level in my opinion.
yeah, maybe I was being a little too, I would say that it's definitely very important. You have to like set an atmosphere with the music you're making, and I feel like I kind of mentioned that earlier, right? It's like like genres exist for a reason. Like different genres of music have their different feelings, or even within genres, there's like subgenres, or like so many individual things that all contribute to the message, or like what you want the listener to feel while they're listening to this song, and that's, I feel like, very important. But with music, a lot of that is very subconscious. It's not like you have to sit down and talk to somebody for 5 minutes and tell them exactly everything that's going on. You don't have to like set up a huge set with like everything. It's just kind of you just hear it and it all clicks. And I feel like with music, when I say it's like not supposed to be thought provoking, if you have to think about it, then I feel like you're not really conveying the message as well as you should. It should just be like, it clicks with you right away. Because if it clicks with you, that means that all the work is being done to convey the exact mood that's being intentional here. I don't know. I feel like the best kind of songs are the songs where a person very cleverly has an experience or whatever that they're talking about that isn't too specific to them, so that it can relate to the listener. It can be thought-provoking because that message could maybe convey a situation that everyone's been through, but they say it in a way that like really resonates, or I've never thought about this like before. I really like the way that you said that, or the way you put those words together. And because it like you hear it a bunch of times, like that's the thing with different like music. People can watch a movie over and over again, but like if you're listening to your favorite song, if you're listening to that song over and over and over, and especially listening to the radio, because the radio repeats songs a lot. So
and sometimes those songs tend to be like earworms.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And they can be earworms in a good way, and they can be earworms in a bad way.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, I'm talking too much.
Yeah, I think like a strength that music does have is that like they can tell like complete stories in like a short period of time, and like immediately bring a person into like that sort of thing, in that atmosphere. And like music can be complementary to like a film in such a way where like the setting of the film combined with like how the music is played can convey a sort of like feeling in the audience, or convey like some sort of action about to happen.
Yeah.
And even then, like on music on its own can tell a complete story. Like I'm gonna bring up like Foo Fighters' "Let It Die." Yeah, I think it's "Let It Die," where like Dave Grohl kind of like goes over like his sort of feelings about why about the death of why the fuck am I blanking out now? Nirvana, what's his face?
Kurt Cobain.
Kurt Cobain, like talking about like his feelings surrounding like the death of Kurt Cobain, like years after, and kind of like sort of like pleading and like being sort of accusatory to like the like I think Kurt Cobain's like girlfriend or something, I think at the time, like that sort of thing can like evoke very strong feelings. They can project like the strong feelings that the artist may have, and instill that into their audience and put them in like their shoes, which I think being able to like convey your feelings about a situation, and that sort of way can kind of like give an insight into like the artist's like sort of like feelings to their life and how they like interact with the world post like Kurt's death, basically.
Yeah. I've never heard that song. I'm going to use a song that was really popular as like an example. The song's called "See You Again," and it's the biggest song that I can think of that focuses on like a major death. And this was
Right.
Paul Walker in the Fast and Furious movie. So the thing is with that song, like if you look at the pure lyrics of that song, they're very basic. Like, you know, a third grader could like see that chorus and know exactly what it means. But like with a song like that, you know, it's very basic. It's not like super duper thought provoking, but it can be seen as like, you know, very touching and I guess deep to some people, because it's like, well, people hear that, they think of, oh, this person, you know, that I've been attached to. And they can also think of like someone in their own life that they can connect that song to. Be like, oh, well, you know, this person that I've lost, and it's like, you know, this makes me think of that. And I feel like that's something that music can do well. Like I think of like, you know, people like XXXTentacion, Juice WRLD, like these are big rappers who passed away recently. And you know, there's people who've like made songs dedicated to them, and like other people like Avicii died recently. Like
Right.
artists who passed away, you know, people. You can convey a lot through songs and be like, wow, you know, I miss this person. I don't know.
Right, and then that comes into like the relatability factor because "See You Again" doesn't necessarily have to be about Paul Walker in this case.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't have to be. Anyone can sort of like connect to that to like a dead relative. And
Exactly.
and if I could go back to like "Let It Die" for a second, like that song also conveys like this feeling that like someone was neglected, someone who you feel like should have like cared about them the most, neglected them in their darkest times, and like fucked them over basically. And I think that sort of thing, like it does take like a second to like understand. Like the music can like talk about it and like a sort of like convey like this like feeling of anger, but there's also like a reason behind that anger in that song that I feel like takes like more like a second to like recognize once you like understand the context of like that situation, or even like understanding the lyrics themselves. I think you can do that sort of thing. I would pull the lyrics up right now, but I'm playing WoW at the moment. But
I haven't.
I think like I think like music like can have like both like a surface level meaning and like a deeper meaning behind it once you like take a second to recognize it. And I just like at the end of this, I feel like I just have like an issue with just only consuming music in terms of like the feelings that you get like here and the now, and like and like just how the music comes to you in that moment. And I think there's also like I feel like it just neglects like a big part of the art form where you can also like dig deeper in that sense.
I completely understand that. I mean, I just want to before we get, I want to mention a few things. First of all, like, you know, there's songs like people listen to in their childhood, and then they'll look back to it as like an adult, and they'll see that song in a very different way, or it'll remind them of
Right.
a happy memory they had. Also, I want to mention one more thing. I want to mention the Linkin Park song "One More Light," and the reason for this is because this is from an album that, if I recall correctly, people were like really loathing. People were like, "Oh my god, this is their worst album. I hate the direction."
I was like one of those people at the time too.
Yeah.
And like looking back at it now, I like realized that it's in particular like "One More Light." I actually liked that song off the album because I think it was like a very like raw moment for Chester, and that like looking back, that was like his, I guess, his last cry for help right there. It seemed.
Exactly.
And I think and I don't think like that many people realize that until he killed himself, which
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like a lot of people when they first heard the song probably didn't think of anything. Probably thought it was like a little, you know, whatever. But like as soon as he passed away, people were going back to that song, and people were like, they were hearing it in a way that they never heard it before, and it was like really touching to them. When it's like maybe if when they originally heard that song they didn't feel that way, but they re-looked at those lyrics and then they saw like the context of what was going on in his life, and after, you know, he passed away, he, you know, committed suicide. then people like were really struck, and it's just really interesting how that context can really change the way that people view it, because it really is a really touching song when you think about that. I don't know. I just find that that's a really interesting like example. And you mentioned Linkin Park earlier. I don't know what I don't want to be off topic again. What was the thing you were saying? Oh yeah, because it's limiting to like the ways that people consume art form.
Right. I think I think that you're the way that you analyze like art in that sense that when I guess I'm just still stuck on that like the tweet that you made that music shouldn't be thought provoking. I know there's like probably like a lot more like I guess like nuance behind that tweet because you can't really tweet nuance on Twitter.
I know. To be honest, my Twitter it's such a mess. Like I tweet the most like provocative like cringy shit. But I mean, it's like I understand there's more nuance to what I'm saying. To me, the reason why I tweet something like that is because of all the Anthony Fantanos in the world and all the people in the world. It's like they view music as like, I mean, maybe I'm like overthinking it, or maybe I'm like, I guess, putting people into a box that they don't necessarily see themselves as. But I've seen enough of it to where I'm like, I don't. Maybe I'm overcorrecting here. Whereas maybe I should be saying, well, music doesn't have to be thought provoking to be good, and maybe that's what I should be saying instead. Not to say that it can't necessarily be. I'm coming back to what I said before, and I don't want to necessarily repeat myself. So I can definitely understand why people would be bothered by what I said. I don't think it warranted the extreme response that it got. But it's fair to have these conversations.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, welcome to Twitter, I guess.
Oh.
I know how familiar you are with, like, getting shit for takes, because it's like...
How long have you been following me for?
God, when, I know it was, like, sometime after you had the Vosh conversation. Like, I didn't listen to that conversation, like, because I haven't, like, really kept up with, like, a lot of, like, Vosh. Mainly because, like, like, most of my engagement with like online politics at this point is kind of just in like seeing stuff on Twitter and shit posting.
Right.
But, like I'd see like the videos like that. I'd see like the title cards and see you there, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. So I'll just follow this person and see like what's up, just to, like keep up with the space in general.
Yeah, wait. You found me from the Bosch video, or where'd you find me specifically?
I mean, like I think that was like the first time I had like quote unquote like seen you, I guess, in that sense.
Okay.
But I'd also saw you on like I think it was like Destiny Hunter Avalon, like you were like making the rounds on Twitch poll.
And it's kind of crazy how I did that. Like I think I had my first debate with Destiny in like, what was it, May 1st of this year, and then he uploaded on like May, like 2 weeks later.
Mm-hmm.
And so like ever since then, it's only been a few months. But in those few months, I've pretty much like I've talked to Hunter Avalon, Destiny, Vosh, Keffels, the guy who does the hippy dippy stuff.
Yeah, Dylan Burns.
Stardust. There's other people, I'm sure, but like I've talked to so many people. It's actually kind of insane. And I feel like it's naturally coming to a close because I was hoping I can get to a point where I can stay in the space, but it doesn't seem like that's going to be the case. And I just have to. You'd have
to kind of like garner an audience and like kind of keep it. So, and the way to do that is to both do like YouTube and Twitch at the same time. Like you stream, like the content that you do, and like talk about all that shit all the time, and at the same time like upload. Never mind. Upload like YouTube videos. So that seems to be like the meta for like people to like get started, and it's like a pretty big time commitment at that.
Well, the thing is that like I never streamed on Twitch. I don't know how to
Mm-hmm.
do the technical stuff, right? So I've never done a Twitch stream in my life. When it comes to YouTube, I don't post that often. I should post more. But like I deleted like 15 of my older videos. I don't know if that was a good idea. I think it was. I have to like clean up my channel, but some people say it wasn't. I need to upload more, and it's like I had a bunch of debates that I just didn't upload, and I'm like, oh, these are on other people's channels. And there was like one that I was going to upload, I thought about it. I was like, yeah, I'm probably not gonna do that. The Kemples debate, she never uploaded that, which kind of made me mad. But I had a video where I kind of explained it, and it kind of like went over why that video, why she never released it. I mean, I really do need to. But like, if you look at my channel, have you seen my channel? Like, are you aware of my YouTube channel or not?
I mean, I'm aware of it. I haven't really like gone through it though.
So that's completely fair. So I have, I think, what is it? It's 1.63K, which is like 1,630 subscribers or something. And so for that, like all of my videos get like over 1,000 views. I mean, there's like a few that haven't, like, but it used to be like when I first started my channel in like 2019, if I got 100 views per video, that was my goal. And I believe like sometime in like 2020, that was when I was consistently doing like 100 views per video, and I thought that was like really good. And if I could just keep doing 100 views per video, my channel was set. And then that number became like, oh, now every video I'm getting is getting a few hundred views. And now I'm in this like crazy space where it's like I can put out a video and it's getting 1,000 views. And for someone with like, a relatively small subscriber base, like there's channels with like 10, 20 times my subscriber count that they don't get as many views as I do for my videos. And I don't know why that is. Maybe it's because I don't upload that much, or because when I do upload, I'm very particular of like, okay, is this going to get views? Is this going to get talked about, right? So I'm very careful when it comes to that. I don't want videos that flop, but even the ones that you think would flop, I like find a way to make sure that they get views. Like the most recent video on my channel, I posted it. I didn't even intend to make it public, but I posted it on Twitter right when I was going viral, and then like 600 people watched it just from that. And then I got comments on my YouTube channel being like, when are you going to make this public? Are you making this public? And I didn't even think I was going to. It was just like a fun little joke video that I was going to save for like April Fools of next year. And then I was like, you know what? It has 600 views already, and people are wanting me to post it, so I'm just going to put it public on my YouTube channel. And then maybe that's like an experience where it's like, okay, maybe I should just post more. I was like, I would even post videos now. Like, I'm making one, like the songs, like of the 20 times ranked. The reason I can't is because it's taking forever to edit, and I have to think of the strategy I want to do with it. And also, if I just post it right now, no one's gonna see it because I feel like when I post, it has to be, people have to be like talking about me, and like Twitter can be toxic, but it can be a good way to get people's attention. I don't know. I'm probably overthinking this. I just need to post more about it.
Yeah, I think like volume is definitely like a thing you should consider. You don't have to like post every day. I just think like posting regularly would be good enough for most people, because that means like they kind of have like a steady stream of content they can like listen to whenever like they're free, basically. And having like a Twitch audience too also instills that sort of thing, because if you have like a regular schedule, then people will come to see you on a regular basis. They'll make it part of like their routine in that aspect. And plus, like, and how you've kind of like farmed content so far, it's kind of just been with like the big creators, and you kind of just like use like the controversy that you stir on Twitter and in those spaces to get those sort of views.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I have to get people engaged with me personally, and it's like I have done that. Like I have a video on my channel about like Kendrick Lamar's Auntie Diaries. Like I'm a trans woman. I didn't like that song, and that video has like 20,000 views because it's like my take, and I kind of like played into it. Like that video. Think of my most hot takes on Twitter, and imagine that in video form, and that's the Kendrick Lamar video. And that's not like a typical video on my channel, but it got results. Like my most viewed video on my channel is my experience editing for The Right Opinion. And so that video, he's like a big, commentary YouTuber.
Yeah. I've heard of him. I've watched a good bit of his videos actually.
So
that's cool. Like you were able to edit for that.
Yeah, the Dan Plan video on his channel, I'll give you a TLDR. I originally was editing for that video, and then last minute, The Right Opinion fires me because I had controversial tweets, and then he hires the guy who has like 300K subs who made the video canceling me, and then he puts an Easter egg in the final video that only I would ever get, specifically referring to the fact just to like mess with me. And so I basically have 2 videos where I chronicle this whole thing, and I'm like, oh, The Right Opinion made controversial videos in the same time period for the tweets that he's fired me for. Like it's this whole thing, and it was probably something that the video got 50,000 views, and assumingly looking at the comments, it's because like, oh, I clicked on this thinking that there was actually going to be an expose, Meanwhile, he was right, and it's like people weren't on my side.
Yeah.
Um, but
I mean, you're fighting an uphill battle with that anyways.
yeah, it's no, exactly. I mean, Blair White, I made two videos on her. The first video I made, right around the time I made the Right Opinion video. And the second video I made was like this big hour-long video. And it was right before I did the Destiny debate. And when I made that video, I was like, this is the future of my channel. I'm going to have multiple interviews for every video I do. It's going to be this long. And I said to myself, this is the blueprint for my 2022 content style and how moving forward. And I was really proud of that video. And then it just didn't really do all that well at first. It only got like a few hundred views, which was fine. But when my content started blowing up, like when I started doing the debates with Destiny and Bosch, that video quickly went from like a few hundred views to like 2,000, which it has now, which is like really good. So, and then like the one I did before that, the trans men video, I don't like thumbnail that video. I feel like I could have done better. Like even that video, that was like a really bad performing video on my channel. But like it still has over 1,000 views because after the Destiny stuff, people went and watched my old content and the Bosch stuff and all that.
Right.
So I have more subs than ever. I have more people watching my content. And I've even seen it in the numbers. If I post a new video now, there's more people watching in the first 24 hours than I think I've ever had before, which is like really promising. But I'm still wondering, like, is it too late for me? Have I missed my shot? And I'm thinking, like, and I have to think to myself, is it better to just like put a bunch of content, not care as much about the quality, get the quantity, and hope that like one of those things goes viral and sticks? Or do I wait until I have the perfect video to come back with that I'm really confident is gonna really blow up? And I don't know. I haven't found the answer to that.
Personally, if you are making a comeback, probably like kind of coincide it with a with like a major like a debate that could, or like any sort of like interaction with someone that could get a lot of views, and then post that content alongside that. Doesn't have to be like the same day. It could just be like a few days later. That way you have like the initial wave of people looking at your content and they kind of get funneled into that, and then people can decide whether they like it or not in that sense.
Absolutely.
And otherwise you can still make that content on its own and then see where that goes from there. It probably seems to be like a bit of more high effort content.
Yeah.
So you would probably be posting less frequently there. So
The problem is, like, when it comes to talking to larger creators, I feel like I've kind of run the well dry. I would love to talk to like a large creator and have that happen to me. And if that happens, I'm really happy. Like the second debate, I had a second debate with Destiny. It was like 200,000 views on this channel. I did not expect that to happen, and it almost didn't happen. It was like a really, like, I don't want to like expose DMs or anything, but there was a point where it was like, it was looking like it wasn't going to happen. And I was like, fuck, did I just ruin the shot? I got lucky that things just happened to work out the way that they did. But I have to think to myself. I keep thinking, like, I just have to keep constantly appearing on people's streams and just keep staying in people's radar.
basically just got a drama farm or controversy farm. That's it.
I want to do that. Like, I know, for instance, like a Hunter Avalon, like when I had the big tweet, I had like 440,000 like likes, basically being like, oh my god, Rose Millet's horrible tweet. It's like, I don't know if I want to do that anymore. It's like, is it worth it? Like, I would love to do it, but it's like, I have friends who like are seeing the tweets that I made, and it's like really bothering them. It's like, I just have to think of like what my priorities are, and I know if I make a comeback, maybe I will think of a good way to like get back in that scene, to like get people's attention. Maybe I will come up with something that really works. And my thought process was this, and this was my strategy for like 2023. Like, I had my 2022 strategy and it worked beautifully. Going into the next year, what I want to do is I want to create a video, and a video about like a topic, like a new. So each video I make on my YouTube channel is going to create new debate topics and new interesting things. And so then what I want to do is I want to get larger streamers to watch my YouTube video and then debate me on the video that I made. So I feel like that's the way I go forward, because it's like, if I just rely on like a big streamer talking.
Uh-oh. Did we lose her? I think we just lost her. Oh, she's gone. Rip. She probably DC'd. Oh.
Yeah, sorry, my medicine was 7 o'clock, so. Am
Ah.
I still alive?
Yeah, you're still alive. Yeah, you're still alive.
You know, it's crazy. I've actually wanted to like go on like bigger streamers' channels, and then they'll ask me like, "What do you want to debate on?" And it sounds really stupid, but I'm like, I don't know. And the way my mind works is like, listen, I'm a very interesting figure, right? I have a lot of like really hot takes. Just you know me, you know what I'm about. Have me on and just trust the process that like things are gonna work out and be really interesting. That's the way I see it. And maybe you don't have like the clout necessarily to pull that off. I don't know. But like every time like the talk I had with Chud Logic, I basically didn't really have a game plan going into it, but it wound up being 3 hours long and being really interesting. So it's like it always winds up working in the end, even if I don't know what I'm gonna do or even if I don't prepare at all. I still wind up having a very good conversation. So it's like I feel like if I make a YouTube video and these people already have a reason to talk to me, and I don't have to be like really insecure. It's like when I talked to Destiny for the first time, I had only like barely started watching his content a few days ago. Like I don't know if I mentioned that. Like I know it's like kind of an embarrassing thing to say because I'm like I know who it was. Like obviously I knew about Destiny and I wanted to talk to him. But I never really like was a watcher of his videos. So I was like so terrified. It's like when I speak to that, I didn't know what to expect, if I was gonna embarrass myself or be out of my league. And I think I did okay with all things considered. But I need to like, because I was surprised. I had to guide the conversation with Destiny because I'm stupid for this and I should have known better because I thought, oh, I have a long list of everything I want to talk about. Destiny was just kind of like whatever, and you know it was my space to like basically you know show that I had like a right to be here and I had like a lot to say. And I feel like if I have that YouTube video with everything I said, and that content creator's already seen the video and wants to talk to me because they think it's interesting, now I'm being put in a different scenario that is better for me. And also, I can like build a relationship where it's like, okay, every time Rose Mulet drops a video, it's going to be really interesting. And I can like connect with that. I don't know if it's going to work, right? This is an experimental thing. If I try this and it doesn't work after the first or two videos, I'm going to change my strategy. But that's what I've been thinking. So I don't know much.
I mean, it's only really gonna work if you have like already have like the status of like bringing like controversial shit to the table. When you do like the only other people I can think of if you're thinking of like doing like this essay style content would be someone like a Noah Samson, and like that dude like said a lot of like dumb shit and made the rounds on what I think it was like Vosh specifically. And like that's how like a lot of people like from like I don't know how many people from like that end knew about Noah Samson prior. But I think if you can kind of do that sort of thing where you're able to capture like an audience in Twitch poll through like similar to how BreadTube does their shit, like you could probably like form the same route as that, and end up fine.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I know when I drop a video, 1,000 people are gonna watch it. Like 1,000 people is
Sure.
it's still pretty significant. I'm happy with that number, and so I know that within those people, there's going to be a few people. Whereas if the video is interesting enough, they're going to talk about it on Twitter, and then the big people follow those people. So it's like if I play my cards right, there's a way to pull this off. Like I keep going back to the Kendrick Lamar video because it's the best performing video on my channel, I think, since like the Right Opinion video that I did. And so with that video, I pulled a nerve and people wanted to talk to me about that video. So I said to myself, okay, I have to think and I have to be strategic about this. What I have to do is I have to think of what's something relevant that I can talk about. Okay, that's step one. I'm working on my SEO strategy, my search engine optimization strategy. Something relevant that people are interested in, they're going to search about. Two, what can I add? And this is what I do with my YouTube videos. I don't know if I do this as much anymore, but I was like very specific. If I'm making a video about somebody or I'm making a video, I want it to be different. If I'm saying the same shit that everyone else is saying, they're just going to watch other people's videos instead of mine. I want it to be that if you subscribe to my channel, you know that I could be talking about a popular person to talk about, but my video is going to be very different from anyone else's video. Like, we look at the videos about Andrew Tate. Like, yeah, everyone's like, yeah, Andrew Tate's a misogynist. He hates women. This is why he's problematic. It's like, okay, like you're getting his life story, but you've seen this from like 10 other channels before. Whereas like, if you get a video from me, you know that I'm going to basically share things that's like, oh, I've never seen anyone talk about this. Like, wow, you bring a different perspective, and they can think that my perspective is shit, but it's a perspective they haven't heard before, and I can pride myself in that, and that I'm giving people something new.
Personally, I think like if you're gonna do that sort of content where you're kind of trying to capitalize on big trends either online or in like politics, I don't know if you necessarily have to be like the first person to bring an opinion, but I think you need to make confrontation with another person at some point, or like bring something that other people may have not like brought in terms of like perspectives, which is why I think that your Auntie Diaries video probably worked out pretty well for you in terms of views, because you brought like a unique take from like a unique perspective. And I'm pretty sure if I like listened to that video, I'd probably disagree heavily with it, but like
Oh, definitely, you probably would. Yeah, a lot of people disagree with me.
and like and then the other aspect of it is being able to take that sort of criticism and expect criticism from like anyone.
Exactly. I knew I was going to get criticism when I put out that video.
Right.
And it's like, I absolutely did. And I still made it anyway. Because it's like, it's something that I wanted to say. It's like, listen, if you don't like my video, there's a bunch of other videos from trans people being like, this song is great. And this song makes me feel seen. This song is tackling homophobia in the rap scene. It's like, there's people who feel that way, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
cool. But you clicked on my video because you wanted to see why I personally did not like the song. And if you feel sad about my opinion, you can feel good knowing that like pretty much everyone in the comment section agrees with you. So I don't understand why you're going to be mad at me when I'm in the minority and I'm just simply advocating for my voice to be heard if you want to hear it. So, I mean, people can be mad. I just feel like their anger is a little misplaced and a little disproportional, but it's the internet. What can you do?
I mean, yeah. I think if you're gonna bring like a very like niche opinion, I think you should expect to get like a disproportionately negative response.
Yeah.
I think on anything, and that's and I think that's like the same way with like the music takes. If we're gonna circle back to the whole jazz is barbaric meme, because I think that's the other one that I wanted to talk about. Why do you? Sorry, why exactly do you think jazz is barbaric?
Yeah.
Or is that like a big like out of context meme?
I will get to that. I just want to say one thing first. Like when it comes to like when it fuck, what was I saying? Oh no. My music being when I make videos that are like very confrontational like that, I know exactly what I'm getting myself into, and I kind of put myself into a hard place. Like I'm playing YouTube on hard mode. And it's like, I know when I make my videos unique, like a lot of these big YouTubers, they're saying what other people are saying and they find a way to make it work. Whereas like, that's not my goal. And I want to like, I've kind of said this before. So I know that's what I'm doing. And I know like when I make a video, people are going to hate me for it, but I still want to make it anyway. And that's not going to stop me. If anything, the fact that people are so engaged by it means that I'm doing at least something right, because I'm talking and saying these things in a way that people haven't heard, and maybe they'll come back to the video and be like, wow, you know, I don't give everything here, but you know, this, and this, no, maybe you had a point there. And that's really like, I just want to get people thinking. I don't want, I don't expect everyone to change their mind. If people are changing their minds specifically just because I made a video about it, I'm a little like, I don't expect that to happen, and I wouldn't expect it to happen. So anyway, I talk way too much. So let's talk about the jazz thing. So when I think about jazz, first of all, let's talk about the elephant in the room. People saw that tweet and they immediately jumped to, wow, this is informed by racism. Rose Mulet hates black people, all this other shit. And people aren't going to believe me, but it's whatever.
Quick question. Do you love black people?
I am neutral on black people in the same way that I'm neutral on gay people. In the same way that I'm neutral on any race. Like I'm neutral. Like I feel like I don't think that anyone's like special or different from anybody else. I think race is just melanin. It really doesn't like mean that much. Like there's cultural differences. Like I think black people in America and black people in Africa are very different culturally. But like a white person and a black person who live in America are way more similar than like people who live in like, like it's more like the way I see it, it's not biology based. The differences are culturally based. So it's like we can be different culturally, right? But at the end of the day, like someone who's born and raised in America, that's really the important thing. Like we're gonna have pretty much very similar beliefs, very similar experiences. Maybe they're gonna deal with a bit of
She
racism,
doesn't
like
know.
the systemic issues. I don't have an issue with people of different races. I don't. I mean, there's like things that people will say, like if people are like, "Oh, I don't like when people get accusatory and like call me like this horrible, evil person." It's like I'm not a perfect person, right? But I don't feel like I'm like especially like horrible compared to like anybody else. I feel like I'm just like if I'm racist, I'm just as racist as like the average person. I don't think I'm like unique in that regard, but I try not to be. I don't enjoy that. At the same time, though, I'm not going to pretend that I believe something when I don't. But when it comes to I'm sorry, I talk way too much, and I don't want to do that. When it comes to my tweet, though, the reason I said it was barbaric, and that was a really bad choice of words, and I understand. I probably said that on purpose because I knew it would get people talking, and that's what I love to do. It's really when I see that I thought old-fashioned, out of style, outdated because I hear that and I think this is like elevator music. This is music that like isn't. It's like music from 100 years ago, and
I disagree with that. I'm gonna like I'm gonna like start all the way back from like the love black people meme. That whole do you love black people thing was like a Jordan Peterson thing from
oh
like
really?
way that's like an old like online politics meme. But also
Oh,
like
I didn't
I
know.
mean I and also like tying jazz music to elevator music. And then, not Jordan. I'm sorry, Jesse Lee Peterson. My bad, not Jordan Peterson.
I see.
I'm getting like crucified by my chat.
Wait, how many
Jesse
people are
Lee
watching right
Peterson.
now?
It's like a different person now. Shaved dog's ass. I know him from like a while back. So
Cool. Yeah.
mainly from the Sond Soul realm of things.
Oh, nice. I've talked to Sancho before.
Yeah. Oh, now there's another person. Cool. Yeah. But yeah, like also saying that jazz music is more like elevator music nowadays kind of makes it more of like a civilized art form at this point than barbaric. If we're going along like classical definitions of what we'd call barbaric. Because now that just seems like it's something that like people listen to as like background music when they're like waiting on call for something, when they're on hold at like say like AT&T because their cell service is down.
Here's the thing, though. When I think of jazz music, I think the only people who are listening to it in like 2022 hashtag current year are the people who are like artsy fartsy and think that they're like so prestige. They think they're so like above it all. Like, and they're the same kind of people who watch like old black and white movies from like decades and decades ago because they like what is it like? Oh, this was important to the foundation of America. It's like, well, you're not really viewing the movie in the same way that you put like a modern movie. Like this. It's like the music at the time was important culturally, and it has its significance. But there's a reason why you don't see chart-topping jazz songs in the year 2022. I mean, there's a reason why you survey most people most of them aren't listening to jazz, and the only ones that are the ones who just respect art and the evolution of it, and they really just respect its place in history, and maybe want to bring it back because it's like, oh well, this wasn't important, or maybe they think, oh, this was important for Black people. It's like I don't fucking know. I don't feel like people, like I said, I mean, even the people that like it though, it's not like they're. I don't think that people listen to jazz in the same way that they listen to like other genres. I really do feel like it's more of a background music thing, and people can think it's like calming or whatever. But like,
like, I would like heavily disagree because I think jazz kind of like influence even it still influences music like even today. I don't think it's just some like art form that we've kind of abandoned in like the 1920s Harlem, New York type shit. Like,
yeah.
there's definitely like a place for jazz. You said it was like part of like musical evolution, and I think it still does have a place. Lots of like movies, games, they use that music as a part of either like telling like a story or or giving like a sort of like feel to a character. Are you familiar with like a JoJo's Bizarre Adventure? Because like
Yeah, I've
that
heard of that
doesn't
anime.
that incorporates like a bit of jazz. Like I personally haven't like watched it, but like I've seen like clips of it. I've seen like the music played in that. Like I'd still say that like jazz is like somewhat relevant in that
Well, yeah.
sense, and I think that like I don't think like jazz is this sort of like a millennial like I'm gonna sit here and be holier than thou like art form that you're kind of like portraying it as.
Well, you obviously there's going to be points in culture like you can point to specific bits and pieces and be like, oh, well, that was derived from jazz. Well, it's like, well, obviously it's something that was as pervasive and dominant in like the 40s or whatever. Like, yeah, it's going to have some influence, but you look at the vast majority of music, most of it's not jazz. And for something that was once this huge thing, to see it like be this like downgraded and this low prevalence in culture just means that we've like evolved. It's like I think of it this way, like the polish. I have a better example, like Shakespeare, like those kinds of plays, or even plays in general. It's like they had their place in pop culture, and not to say that they're not important, right? Like people still like them. I just feel like movies convey that much better, or you can like watch things like YouTube videos on your phone. Like there's a lot of things that people do instead, and it's like that served its place in a time where you couldn't do anything else, or a time was that was the only and that was the best role that they had, or like the Colosseum at the time, like people would just watch each other, like I don't fucking know, like get like, oh, there's this lion that's gonna chase people. Look at everybody in this theater. It's like the thing that led to like the modern like concert stadiums, or it's like the primitive like form of like the Olympics or something. Like, I mean, you could look at all of these things, and you could definitely trace its roots to being like, wow, this thing was super influential. It's like, okay, but there's a reason why we don't do this anymore. And while there's some people who cling on to that and be like, oh wow, this was so cool, it's like there's a reason why people don't bring it back, because like that was the great, like the first idea is not always the best idea, and we've had all of these years to perfect it and improve upon it and do things that like weren't possible back then. We have more technology now, and it's like I feel like people that are clinging on to these old genres and refusing to innovate, it bothers me. Because it's like hearing a song on the radio, or like hearing a song in general that's just like another boring ukulele ballad, or another boring like guitar piano. Like, I'm not saying those can't be good, because they absolutely can, but if I hear a song on the radio like Uptown Funk, and Uptown Funk is super popular, if I hear a song that's, and I get a lot of shit for this because people love those songs, but I hear this is just like pure nostalgia bait. Like this song has no merits except for the fact that it's like, hey, remember this era of music? We're doing that again, and we're bringing it back. We're not modernizing it. It's like I don't understand the point of that. Sorry, I'm going way off.
No, you're fine. Sorry, I kind of like am doing two things at once right now.
No, I'm doing the same thing. No, I hope I'm not boring you.
No, you're fine. So like I mean I kind of like disagree with like this sort of sentiment that we always like have to like innovate with music. I think like, oh, actually no, I do think like you can innovate like old genres. Like I don't think you necessarily have to like redo like the same things that like you did in like the 20s. Like you have new technology, you have access to like different things that otherwise like wouldn't have been possible back then. You can like master music a bit better. You can add like more tracks onto things. You can make things a bit deeper. You don't necessarily have to like reinvent every new genre or every old genre and like make it relevant again. But I do think like you can incorporate that into anything really. And I think that our ability to take old music and like reinsert it back into like popular culture, and kind of not necessarily only to kind of talk or not to talk to kind of like harken back to like a different era of music, but to put it in like a new spin, put new context on it, bring like a new light into that genre that really didn't exist prior.
Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking back to like rock music. Like this is the thing people say a lot. Like, oh, rock music is dead. Like there haven't been any big rock songs since Blink. Well, it's like if you look at, you can definitely see like, yeah, well, the songs being put out today are different from the songs that were being put out in like the 80s or the 70s or whatever. Right? That's true. But it's like nothing is stopping anybody from putting out a song that sounds identical to those songs from those eras, right? The
Right.
reason that people don't do it, and I'm sure some people do, but they're just not like super popular, is people, I guess, people have taken that sound and they branch it out into different like waves. They branched out into their own unique genres, and they're taking some elements and they're incorporating it with other elements. Like we're getting these mixed mash of all these different genres combined together. And so the people who are doing the classic stuff, it's like, well, no one, if people are still listening to those old songs, and I'm not super for that, like nostalgia stuff. The people who like that kind of music aren't really searching out a bunch of new music. They're just they're going with their old favorites. They're re-listening to those songs over and over again. But the people that are searching for new music are going to be more open to new differentiating sounds. So I mean, part of the problem is that one, people aren't wanting to make that kind of music as much because they've evolved past that. They've evolved into trying new things and different, expanding subgenres within that main genre. So like that's one reason, and that could be the same for jazz. Like jazz, evolved into this thing, and then people started doing this thing. Like when Elvis came out, like that he was just taking black people's music, and then you had the Beatles and you had like Michael Jackson. It's like over time, the kind of music is going to change from one thing to another. And like I feel like if we listen to like music that was popular like in the 1950s, like a lot of that music, it doesn't do anything for me. Like songs have been getting shorter, and you could blame streaming for that, but it's like I listen to some old songs that are like 4 minutes long and they take forever to get to the choruses. And it's like people like that, people like the build, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but I find that like I don't know, for whatever reason, you can call it like I have a low attention span, whatever you think. I just feel like there's something that the way that we're writing songs now is just very, I don't know. I personally prefer it. It's controversial, but I feel like there's less empty space now, and it's, I don't know. I could go on for like a long time about this. I don't want to keep going.
I
I'm
mean,
sorry.
no, you're fine. God, I feel like I should stop you sooner just so I can like
You should.
so I can like digest
I'm
like everything that you say.
sorry.
No,
I am
you're
so
fine. It's
sorry. That's
well,
my fault.
I am like just so used to like just listening to people rant like for minutes on end. Like I do like I do that with like my friends and stuff, and even like with my girlfriend, I let her like fucking rant for something for like 10 minutes, and I'm just like nodding along. So
Oh, I don't want to do that to you.
no, you're
Terrible.
fine. No, you're fine. Another thing is like I just don't want to feel like I'm like interrupting you too much, but
Interrupt me
I mean
whenever you want.
I mean like I don't necessarily like see like the issue with like shortening music. I mean like intrinsically, like I don't know if that's like necessarily an issue in general, but the people's music does like their tastes do change over time and all that, but fuck, I really wish I really
You're
wish.
good.
No, you're fine. It's like the combination of multitasking and shit, and like
Oh,
just
good.
listening to all that. But like at the same time, like I don't necessarily think like any genre can necessarily be like a dead genre in that sense, or like a genre of like old, where it's all like where it's archaic. And I think like jazz is like that same way because there's still like lots of jazz songs that are in like popular culture. They may not necessarily be like these like super popular like songs on the radio, but like they could be a part of like video game culture or like a movie culture, and like I just think that kind of going based off of like what's popular and like off of like the music charts kind of like negates like where certain like genres can have or really do shine in like this day and age. Fuck, don't pull. Fuck me. I don't want to die.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something about classic WoW. Like, it can be fucking brutal. Just feeling like stupid weak, but that is like completely off the topic. But yeah, like I think that like jazz does like have a place in like modern society, and that like I think I would always hesitate to call like a certain like musical genre barbaric, not only because like it optically it sounds really bad,
Oh, definitely.
but also because like you can still see its like influences today in modern culture, and kind of see like where like plays into everything.
Yeah.
Like it may not like exist in the state that it was like 100 years ago, and I wouldn't expect it to, because then that would be like the whole zero innovation type shit.
No. Okay.
But I mean, like, I think it's useful, like, looking and where, like, the genre is kind of, like, taken itself. Because, and we can go back to, like, the whole, like, rock example. Like, I don't necessarily think, like, rock is, like, dead, but it's... But it's kind of, like, in this, like, weird, like, state where you do have, like, a lot of, like, what would be considered, like, rock is now, like, a bit more of, like, this soft, like, poppy type of rock. One band I can think of, is Wallows, and the specific song I'm thinking of is like a Remember When. Like it's a very like short, like I said, soft rock, almost like almost like pop as well, in that sense.
Yeah.
And I think like that and I think that's like a good way to get other people into like rock. It's like it's a bit more like lighthearted, and like a bit like jumpy, a bit more I'd say like, what's the word I'm looking for here? Like hoppy, I guess. Like more like more happy, I guess, is like another way of saying it. But
Okay.
yeah, like music's the music that does find its like niche at the end of the day. And there's also like other bands like this one band that I really fucking hate, The Score. Like that is like the most generic like stadium rock shit like I've ever heard in my life. Like it, like I don't hate bands that are like super bad or like super good, or like that are like trying but don't sound that great. I'm talking about like The Score to me sounds like it's mediocre music for people who aren't by people who don't try that hard.
Oh yeah.
Like it's like this like completely middle of the road music, and it sounds so bland and generic. It like drives me crazy. And then there's other like major bands like that are like more like popish now, like Imagine Dragons. They've kind of become the new Nickelback.
I knew they were gonna come out. I knew it was Imagine
Yeah.
Dragons.
Like personally, like their music I don't really like as much as like their like first and second album. But like I feel like they try. they like sure like a lot of their songs to me nowadays feel like misses, or like very like hit and miss, but like I feel like that they put in effort. But like when I hear like The Score, I can think of this like just 4/4 beat with like the like very like almost like open air like drum sound, and it's just like the chorus is just like screaming about like being triumphant over something. It's just like just shut the fuck up.
These are the guys who like their music's in like Dude Perfect videos, right?
Yeah, like that sort of shit.
Yeah. Oh, I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay. That's fair.
Like-
Is there anything else you want to say?
I mean, not really. Besides, yeah,
Besides what?
I want to get back into like Linkin Park and like how like music has kind of like been influenced by other things. Linkin Park was influenced a bit by like Depeche Mode, and the reason why I really liked Depeche Mode and like it, like on a surface level, I really like the like synthesizer like 80s pop. Like
Yeah.
those sounds like I just really like. On like a very like surface level type thing, but Depeche Mode kind of like hit this sort of like nerve with me where like on one hand you've got the sort of like a very, you have like sort of these darker tones interspliced with like with like lyrics that on the surface sound like a bit more like it's like, you know, your generic pop sometimes, and then with stuff like Blasphemous Rumors you get into like some more like deeper messages about like you know, religion and all that over this like very like pop tune, like very sort of like really catchy melody, and then you kind of like dig deeper into that and you have like this sort of like critique on like religion and how people interact with it, or and but more or less with like how it ties back to Linkin Park, those like very like the darker melodies specifically, and like the electronic music played into that influenced a bit of like Linkin Park's music, in the sense where you can find this like balance between catchy like song that can catch a lot of people, and a lot of these darker themes, which I really liked.
Yeah. All right. So I wanted to say, it's interesting you brought up Depeche Mode, because it's like that's like an artist I'd only ever hear when I'm like talking to my parents, because it's like, you know,
I fucking love 80s music.
yeah. Well, you know, it's funny. I used to be, and I guess I still kind of am like, ooh, you know, old is bad, new is better. I guess I'm like, as I'm getting older, of course, like the typical thing happens. I'm like looking back at like the 80s music. I'm like, well, actually, all these songs are actually kind of good. Like, you know, I kind of like caught myself being like, oh fuck, this song's like 40 years old, but like I could see this, like I still like it. And I've had these conflictions. It's like everything that my mind is telling me is like, oh well, you know, new music should always be better. And it's like, I don't know, some of these old songs are kind of, I don't know. I was gonna mention that before, because it's like what I was gonna mention is like I feel like a lot of people kind of refuse to evolve in a sense, and it's like I've always made this comparison. It's like, well, you wouldn't use technology from like decades ago. You wouldn't use computers like from the 80s. So why are we still like, you know, looking at like this like kind of music and being like, well, this is the best music there is? And I see like in ads all the time, like, you know, corporate ads are all the time. They use 80s music specifically because like, you know, the adults are going to really connect with it. And even the kids are going to connect with it. I feel like that's like and I remember there being like a study, I forget what it was, and they compared to see like, oh, what were the types of genres, like what was popular, and they found that during the 80s, it was like the decade that had like the most samey sound. Like if you hear like a type of song, like you could hear a certain sound and be like, oh yeah, that's definitely like an 80s sound. But I don't know if you can really say that as much for like other decades. I mean, you can, but like the 80s sound is it's so weird. You hear like the synths, you hear like certain things and be like, oh yeah, I can tell this is an 80s song. It's almost like a genre in a way. It's really interesting.
I think a lot of the reason why like 80s music and today's music can feel like a bit similar in that sense is because I feel like the 80s had like the kind of quintessential like pop music. Like it kind of like laid the ground for a lot of like what pop music is today.
Oh yeah.
And a lot of what it is today is a bit of like a, almost I'd say a harken back to it. Mm-hmm. Or maybe more so that it's it's kind of like replaying those same notes because that's kind of like what was big back then, and maybe like a lot of people were kind of into the sort of like a looking back into the 80s again, and or even like for the first time, because a lot of like pop culture today, a lot of like the shows that are popular, like the things that are popular, one thing being Stranger Things.
Yeah.
People seem to really want to like revisit the 80s because of that. And they kind of like find these gems that people back then also liked. And I don't know if it's necessarily strange or it's just that like the pop industry found a formula that works and they didn't want to like reinvent the wheel. in that sense.
Yeah.
Because a lot of today's music is a lot more electronic, and pop music in the 80s was fairly electronic as well.
Yeah, I just want to say when it comes to like the 80s and like Stranger Things, I always find it really interesting how like music videos will take like these old like classic they'll purposely use the effects that like from old cameras and like that's an aesthetic choice instead of technical limitation. Like it's a
Mm-hmm.
weird thing that people do now. But what I've noticed is like they'll do that, but they'll like kind of I don't want to know I don't know if like whitewashing is the right word, but like they'll remove all of like the racial tensions from the time. They'll remove all the homophobia from the time. And it's like, okay, well, would this really happen in the 80s? And it's like I don't know. It's like we want all the good from the 80s, but also we still have cell phones too. And it's like, well, the 80s didn't have cell phones. It's like you're kind of picking and choosing. It's like how you look back at your childhood and you only and the reason you look at it so fondly is well, one, you didn't have any responsibilities, and two, it's like you're really only like thinking of the best moment. So you're ignoring it's like a what you're looking through things with like rose tinted glasses. It's like I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. And I feel like there's actually a good thing that people kind of pick and choose, like, oh well, this is what we keep, this is what worked, and this is what we can improve. Like we have this technology. It's like, okay, there's some merit to that. Um, what was I gonna say? I don't remember. Yeah, when it comes to music today, there is an '80s revival that's definitely happening. Like, you look at like The Weeknd or like Dua Lipa or like Bruno Mars. Like these are all really big artists who like they're modern in sound, but like you listen to the music that they're doing, and they're definitely doing like a retro kind of thing, and it's weird because it's like you can tell that the music is modern, but it also is heavily inspired by these old acts, and I don't know how to feel. It's like when you see remakes with movies, like people complain, it's like, oh my God, how many of, Star Wars movies are we going to get? How many, insert generic franchise are we getting? Like, oh, another Spider-Man, another, like, I don't know.
I'm gonna be honest here. The MCU, like, I feel like it's a bit overplayed right at this point. I feel like there's just like
Yeah.
so much content out there nowadays. It's really hard to keep up. It feels like it's a chore to like
So
keep up with it. And I kept up with a lot of like the original like Avengers shit. But it's just
no,
like everything post that you have to like watch like 7 different shows and like, oh, there's like 5 new movies coming out this year that you got to watch. Oh, and like by the way, there's also like these spin-offs, and it's just like ugh.
I 100% agree. I think what did it for me is when they started doing like the TV shows. Like when it was just like first of all, like 3 movies a year is already kind of insane. But now you're adding like all these shows, and it's like you can't really expect me to watch it. Like now they have like what She-Hulk, Miss Marvel, and I'm just like I do not care about these shows. And it's just like it's cool that it's like if you have your niche and it's like oh well some people are going to be interested. It's like cool, but I feel like it's a bit much. And it's like after like Endgame and after like all of that happened, it's like okay, like we should. I don't know. It's fascinating what they've been able to like build, but at the same time, like it's a little excessive. But going to like the sequel thing, yeah, it's like there's people complain all the time about like sequels and reboots. So it's like, oh, we're really doing this again. We're really making this movie again. Why are we ruining this franchise? And it's like it's weird because it's like people complain, but at the same time, it gets money. People want more original films, and then when they get an original film, they just aren't as interested, or like it doesn't resonate with like a general audience. Even if the film is great, it's easier to fill seats if the audience already knows what they're being like. And I don't know how to fix this problem because you can make original movies that do well. It's absolutely possible.
Like
But
see everything everywhere all at once. Like that is like hands down like one of my favorite films, I think, in my opinion.
yeah, I will say with that movie had a really strong word of mouth campaign that I haven't really seen in a long time. And it had really strong legs in the box office too. It wasn't like a super high grossing movie, but for like A24, it was like their best selling movie. And it was funny because I heard all the praise on social media, and you know me, I always have hot takes, so this probably shouldn't surprise you. I was going into the movie expecting it to be this pretentious thing, and I was just going to hate every second of it. And then I watched the movie, and I expected to hate it, and I didn't hate it. But at the same time, I didn't like love it either, and it was like this really conflicting thing. Because for a lot of it, I could understand why people were so attached with it, and I got it. but there were also some things that the movie did that just was like so like weird and so like it's like why would they do this? But at the same time, I can also understand like maybe that's like that's what people enjoy about it, the unconventional stuff here. It's like okay, I can see that. I feel like it was a bit out there for me personally. I feel like there's some like I respect the movie for what it is, absolutely, and I knew what I was getting into, so it didn't shock me. But that being said, I kind of knew what to expect, and I still ended up liking the movie more than I expected to. And obviously, I went in with everyone on social media being like, "This is the best movie of the year. This is like an incredible movie," um, and it's like, I'm glad, I'm happy for them, right? I don't know that movie. I'll give it that. It was unique. It was its own thing. I could point to like, oh well, actually, it kind of takes a little bit of inspiration from this or a little from this, and it's like, I don't know if I agree with all the choices they made, but yeah, I mean, it was an original movie, and I'm glad it exists for sure. I don't know, I'm sorry. I made a whole Twitter. It's deleted now because I deleted all my tweets, but I had like a whole like Twitter like voice thing of my review. I wish I saved it. I should have saved it. I would have uploaded it as a YouTube video. Missed opportunity there. Fuck. Anyway, sorry.
No. Like, fuck. Sorry.
Oh, you're right.
Like, what exactly about that movie didn't like strike that well with you? I'm curious.
Oh, actually, I wish when I was out of the theater, I had a lot of things. First of all, like some of what was it? Like some of like there was like a part of the movie where like I don't know if this is like spoilers or whatever, but it's been out long enough. I feel like I can talk about the movie.
Yeah.
There was like parts of the movie. What was it? There was this one part where there was like what was it, like a butt plug, and that was like this big like funny thing, and then they like had like these big like what are they called? Like a dildo, and then that was like the whole part of. I was like, okay, that was like outlandish, and like the whole like the part where like they have the hot dog fingers, or like the part where it's like, oh well, I'm controlling. It's like they compared it to like Ratatouille, and it's like they're just copying that movie, and it's like it was about outlandish. I feel like the multiverse thing, like it's cool. Like the family thing was cool. Oh yeah, and also like the message at the end that like nothing matters, which is why everything matters. And it's like I don't know. It's like if I could live in any universe, I kind of would live in the universe where I'm like a celebrity that like everyone like loves me and like I'm an actress, or I live in a universe where like my life is super successful and everything works out for me. I don't understand how she could like go to every freaking universe where every other universe she's like this amazing thing and she's super important, and then come to the conclusion that wow, I'm amazing in every other universe and I suck in this one. You know what? This universe is the one for me. It's like that's stupid. Like how could you not come to that conclusion and feel like super like, oh my god, like I fucked up my life so much in every other universe? It's like it's a joke that like this is the only universe I'm not successful in, which by the way I feel like they chose that one to be like, oh well, most people are poor, they can relate to her and feel like yeah, and it's like I get that. I really
I feel like you're kind of like missing the point in that like it's not necessarily that like she decides to just choose the place where she fucks up everywhere because like it's the most relatable. I think it's because like it's the most authentic to her. Like in every other universe, she's like this like super cool like person who can like do a lot of things, and like if she like does the right thing at the right moment, she can like call upon things that she will never be. But like the person that she is none of those people. She's her. She's not the universe where she's like this pop star or not pop star, like a like movie star, and she can wish that she could be that person all she wants, but that's not her. That will never be her. And I think part of that whole thing is like discovering that like she doesn't have to be this like really cool mom who can like save everyone. No, I'm not getting Anivore on the call. What the fuck? Why would I? I'm talking to chat. I just saw that someone like pinged me. But like she doesn't have to be this like cool mom who can like impress everyone like around her. She just needs to be the mom that's like perfect or good enough to like support her daughter. She needs to be like she needs to be her. She needs to be able to like balance her own shit out. And if she spends all this time figuring out ways to like solve things in ways that she isn't, that's not authentic to her. And like although it may be fun to kind of like live those experiences, either like in person through like the multiverse or like vicariously through others, like I think that at the end of the day, what's most important for her is that she deals with the shit she has in her own world and make the best of it.
I guess it's just weird to be like have a movie where it's like the conclusion is that wow, nothing matters, and because nothing matters, that's why it's important. Well, first of all, nothing matters and nothing matters, and none of the other stuff matters. Second of all, this is literally a movie where she's living this mediocre life, and then she realizes that she's the most powerful person in the multiverse, and that these people are coming. Like, how can you have that happen all of a sudden, and then come to the conclusion that well, nothing matters, guys? It's like, no, you literally saved the universe. Like, it's so stupid, and it's like they have like a point where it's like the big plot is like an everything bagel. It's like it's silly, and it's like I get that people like kind of like that. It's just like I don't know. It was strange, and it's like I've had people say, "So, well, you didn't get it." It's like I watched the movie, I just didn't. I don't know. It didn't. It's like I liked it, right? There were a lot of like I said, I was expecting to hate it, and I didn't hate it. I thoroughly enjoyed the movie. It's just there were things in the movie that I was just like, what? Like I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
I mean, like, but the point is that like it's not like she doesn't have to be like this person who lives an amazing life. She just has to be the amazing person that like is with her family and like does what's important to like for them and for her, because it's not important that she's like for her right then and there that she can be like this super famous actress. What's more important to her is her business that she runs with her husband, or her relationship between her husband, a relationship between her father and her daughter. Like all of that at the end of the day is like much more important. And like underneath all of this like superhero crap, like the entire plot is like her trying to deal with like a daughter who may like resent her because she feels like she's not getting the support that she needs, and a husband who's trying to like separate himself from like a person who he believes is like a bit who's like so dedicated and to like just like figuring out everything in the job and making her life like as like picturesque as possible for her father, and then having to contrast her father's like disdain for like gay people with like the fact that her daughter's gay. Like there's this all it's all like a balance between like family matters at the end of the day, and like all of like the superhero shit, all of the multiverse shit, that is secondary to that core plot.
No, I completely get that, and I understand that, and like
and like that's what the movie's about.
No, I get that that's what the movie's about, and I get that because that's what the movie's about, that's what's coming in conclusion. I'm just thinking to myself like, well, wait a second, you can literally live in any universe you want to where life is, and that's just like one example. I mean, I don't remember all of them, but like in every other universe her life is a lot better. So it's like, why would she go through all of that and realize there's so many better options for me, and then decide, well, actually, like, I know for a fact she's not sitting there in this laundromat being like, I'm super happy with this laundromat. She's not sitting at this family dysfunction being like, I'm super happy with this family dysfunction. In an ideal world, she would not be working in a laundromat. She would not have the family dysfunction. And I feel like the movie just ends with her being like, this is great. Like, this is, really what's important. It's like, no, that's stupid. It's like, here's a world where literally all of your problems are solved. And yet it's like, well, actually, it's like, I don't feel like that's how a real person thinks. I mean, I don't know. Like, maybe I'm nitpicking, and maybe this is just my own little thing. I just can't, like, I don't know. Like,
I don't feel like you're really getting it, actually. Like, not gonna lie, I think the point is like the average person, while they may fantasize that like they would want their life to be perfect, I think most people are content with like making the best of the things that they've got.
Well, they make the best of the things they got.
And that, like, at the end of the day, like, as much as... But, like, at the end of the day, as much as people would want to be, like, pop stars, what's more important is like the relationships that they have with people around them, and I think that's like infinitely more relatable than like anything else, really.
Well, yeah, I mean, like relationships with people around you are important, and maybe like there's a bias of being like attached to like the people you've known, and like that's why you want to stay in that world, like whatever. But it's like, I mean, there's, I can't get over this. Maybe it's just Rose Millet here. Rose Millet, I make popular music. I make like YouTube videos. I literally spend my whole entire life wanting to be famous.
Everything everywhere
Maybe
all at
that's
once.
that coming out of this conversation. Right? Maybe that's why I've come to this conclusion here. But like, it's just really interesting to me. Like, I get what they were going for. I really get it. It just doesn't sit right.
I just think that it's weird that it doesn't necessarily resonate with you because like at its surface, like a lot of like the things that happen throughout the film can seem like noise, and can seem like just like this like very like absurd sort of like crazy shit that's kind of just thrown into the movie for like flavor, and just like make things wacky for wacky's sake.
Yeah.
Like I don't know how you wouldn't necessarily resonate with like the idea that like even like though there's like all of this shit going around, it doesn't really come close to like mattering about like what's important, like especially with like the everything bagel shit, like that in of itself, like that whole like idea is it demonstrates the idea that like that in of itself is not important, that means absolutely nothing, but what does mean something is like repairing the relationship between like the mother and the daughter.
Well, yeah. I mean, obviously, you want the relationship to be repaired. Like, yeah. Like, oh, that's another thing with this movie. It's so like weird how it'll, and this is what I don't like about it. And it's a problem with how with other movies in the past. It'll literally pull the stupidest shit ever and like the dumbest gag, and then 5 minutes later, it wants you to take seriously these super deep philosophical like viewpoints of the world. And it's like, wait a second, you just made like a really stupid fucking joke about like this thing, and now you want to think, well, I'm going to be this really deep movie now, and it's like
I don't think it's like making a juxtaposition between those two. I don't think it's trying to like I don't think it's like trying on like one hand like at this moment to be like this like ooh super funny like goofy movie, and then like focus like right back on the on like the serious stuff, because that is like part of the movie. That is the silly shit. It doesn't matter, but like that's all that matters because it's like important to like the interactions between the family. Like this silly shit can like happen interspliced between like very serious moments, because that's like a very like real thing that happens with people in like these interactions can on one hand do like really stupid things, but it like means something at the end of the day to them. All of like the really dumb shit means something. Like if we go back to like the butt plug scene, like you said it yourself when you said that like the whole theme with like how nothing matters and that's why everything matters. That whole that butt plug thing doesn't matter. Like that's only there to like kind of like carry the plot along and like show this like how like absurd like life can be sometimes, when you like imagine scenarios that aren't the ones like right in front of you. But then like what does matter at the end of the day, which is like, and if we keep going like along that scene that you're talking about, is like is that mother getting to her daughter and like figuring out like what she needs to do to make her daughter's life that much better.
Yeah, and I get that. Like, I get that that's like a big point in the movie. Also, another like nitpick. I know this isn't like a everything everywhere at once review. The nitpick that I had with this movie is this is like a very minor thing, I guess. But like when they first like the way that they got into the multiverse thing, which is so like suddenly, it's like, oh, like they didn't. It kind of just happened. Also, they had it like, oh, you're going into this closet and that's how you do it. And they completely abandoned that later in the movie. They had like this list of steps you had to do, and then later in the movie, it's like
well that's
other random things. It's like wait, you had this idea of this is how you travel multiverses, and now it's like, no, none of that matters. You have to do this to travel.
Good night,
multiverses.
SDA.
And it changes every time. And it's like, wait a second, this is not consistent. This doesn't make sense to me. Like what?
It's not supposed to be like super. The rule set for like how you enter the multiverse isn't supposed to be like consistent. Every like scenario is supposed to be like this. They're supposed to be like an absurd like way to get into that scenario. That like they're almost in the sense that they're like disconnected in some sort of way from reality. And like again, like the whole like nothing matters so everything matters thing. Like the way you get into the multiverse doesn't matter. Like the things that you do in that multiverse doesn't matter. It's just like it's a vector in which like you can carry on like this sort of like a juxtaposition between like what could and what is. And it's just God. Oh. I'm still like trying to I don't think like that's something that's worth like really like nitpicking in that sense because it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I don't know.
And like I feel like you're nitpicking things that are like completely tangential to the movie's message and like what it's supposed to be like.
Fair, okay, I mean,
Yeah.
like I didn't say I hated the movie because you know what, I expected to hate the movie and I didn't. So that's the thing. It's just
I mean that's
think it was
fine.
the best movie of the year, like everyone else seems to think, and that's totally fine, right? I guarantee you that like 95% of people are like 100% on, and this is how it typically goes on Twitter. 95% of people are typically on the other side of like, you know, and I'm just like, actually, this is what I and it's like, and I'm not even saying this on purpose. It's like genuinely how I feel, and it's like I'm fine with that. But like, yeah, just know that like most people agree with you. So
I mean, I guess. I think my thing is like I just don't think you really understand the message of the movie that well.
how do I not understand the message?
Because you're not really making critiques that are central to like how the movie conveys the message. Or the way you're like conveying is, I just don't think is like. Fuck. I just don't think it's like how like how anyone else like can. I'm appealing to like the majority here, but like. I just don't. I don't think you quite get why that sort of thing is like relatable.
Well, I understand why it's relatable. That's what I said.
And
it's like, yeah, they did this on purpose to make it relatable.
But then you're like complaining about like how it's absurd. But even though it's like how certain scenarios are like really weird or like how like this shouldn't be there, but like it should because it's central to like the core theme of the movie. And I think critiquing the movie for being absurd when it's supposed to be absurd, and certain points while also being like serious, I feel like I feel like you just don't quite understand like the movie's choices in that sense.
Well, you know what? You know what I think I need to do? I think I need to have a debate because I know Destiny is like the #1 Everything Everywhere at Once like fan. Like he tweets about how this movie was like so good, and it's like if I can get it, I've kind of mentioned this as a joke. I want to like have a debate with Destiny, being like, okay, Destiny, tell me why this is a good movie, or like anybody really. Like have like a full thing because it's like I've had people on Twitter say the same thing that you're saying to me, and it's like, I mean, I don't want to get stuck on this. I feel like I've said what I need to say. If there's anything else you want to say when it comes to this matter, that's cool. But we've been talking about this movie for a long time.
Yeah, that's fair. Wait, Louis, stop it. Hey, buddy, you're loud. Hold on. My cat is just like really, really talkative.
Okay.
He's been like that all day.
Summer.
But yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I think we've hashed about it all that I think we wanted to hash.
Neat.
And I think the most contentious part was actually this most recent thing.
That's actually so funny though. Like this movie. Like who would have thought? Because I still remember that Twitter thread. People were like, "What?" Because I had like a 10-minute long like split over 5 tweets because like how the Twitter Voices thing goes, and it was like it wasn't like a super controversial thing, but it was more controversial than I expected it to be. All for a movie that I said overall like I thought I liked it. Fine. I just had some things that personally whatever. I didn't think it was like the best movie ever, but like I thought I'd hate it, and I didn't. So that's a win in my book. I don't know.
I mean, I guess I just I think at the end of the day, I don't know if you quite understood like the not the perspective, the direction that the movie was going for.
Did I hate
And I think you like I think at like a fairly like base level you understand like what the movie was going for, but I think by attacking like the choices that they made, even though like those choices support like the theme that you seem to like understand, because you don't get it, it just seems like it seems like a bit limiting, I guess.
I'll tell you what. Okay, first of all, I watched the movie months ago, so
I mean, I watched it months ago too, so.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. So I'm a little detached. Second of all, I think maybe I just need to talk to somebody who like can convey to me like more.
Oh yeah, because I'm kind of pulling on things that that I don't remember as well, so
you're doing fine. I mean, like I said, anyone else I've talked to is basically similar. I'm just very curious though. So if anyone would eventually like have that conversation with me, I'd be down. But yeah, although I do think it's a bit silly to be like, oh, we disagree. You don't get it. You don't understand it. And it's like, that like argumentation.
I mean, I get how that sort of thing you feel like you don't understand it, so like. But
I mean, I'm not saying necessarily that that's how you like. That's what it is.
Yeah.
To me, it's like there's a little bit of that there. It's like maybe I just disagree, but it's okay.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, you don't hate the movie, so like I can't really like I can't really be that against you.
Like 9 out of 10 people are saying like, "Wow, this movie's like the best movie of the year. It's so good," and I guarantee it's gonna win like a ton of awards. People are praising it. It's A24's highest grossing film. Like, my random ass, my dumb ass on Twitter having this opinion means absolutely nothing in the grand scheme of things.
But it also means everything. Yeah, there you go.
Oh, there we go. My opinion movie, it's the most important
it gets
thing
tied back. Nothing matters, but everything matters.
Yeah, I'm gonna make an everything bagel.
There you go. Make like a parody video on that.
Dude, I was thinking at the end of the year I'm gonna like rank all the movies, and I was just gonna take the audio and just like redo it. But now I have to think of like when I get to Everything Everywhere. First of all, people are I don't even know where I'm gonna rank it. But I have to do a really good segment for that movie. But anyway, sorry.
I have high expectations. If you fuck up, I will know about it.
Yes, I can see that.
And I will cancel you.
Yeah, I wasn't even gonna watch it. I think I watched it just because 2 reasons. One, my air conditioning broke and I live in Arizona, so when air conditioning broke, I figured I could watch it in the movie theater. I could sit there.
First of all, why would you willingly live in Arizona?
I didn't choose to live here.
I'm fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
I've lived here my whole life. I was born and raised here. Okay, like. And also, like, I obviously, being born and raised in the same place your entire life, you get a little attached to it. Like, it's cool. The heat sucks, though. The heat is the worst.
I mean, like, to be honest, like, I'm not necessarily that attached to Texas, not gonna lie.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm not super attached to Arizona either. It's just, like, I don't know. Everything's, like, modern and clean for the most part, Like, the streets are very, like, easy to navigate. Like, there's like a few things that I think are cool, but it's like I would love to move somewhere else,
Yeah, I would love to live anywhere else but Texas, just because it's kind of like fucking hell world. we have our fucking anarcho electric system, electric grid disconnected from everywhere else.
I heard about that. The United States of America has like 3. It's east to west of Texas. Mind-boggling.
It's fucking crazy. Like that 100 years ago, because someone said, I don't want to be with the rest of the U.S. on the electric system because I think they'll fuck it up, and then like they just like formed their own fucking grid.
so
that
stupid.
shit's insane. Like,
Is
and
that why the
it's so
broadband
harmful.
is so bad in
Yes,
the winter?
that's why, because we were
God.
disconnected from other grids. We couldn't get electricity from anywhere else.
Wait,
So like
you were
lots
affected
of
by that, oh, were you?
personally, I my house was not affected by it. But
Mm.
I knew people who were affected by it. There's like a bunch of people that were affected by that shit, and it was bad. And I think that the freeze that caused like all those power outages, like it fucked over a lot of people.
Oh yeah,
And
definitely.
also like right now where Texas is getting back into a drought, and it's also like stupid hot right now in Texas. So, and like earlier, ERCOT kept like saying like, hey, like keep your thermostat like up, like the energy usage is going up like a bunch. It's just
Oh god.
like if we like connected ourselves back to like another grid, a lot of our issues would be like solved, I think.
Yeah, I think that's a really smart thing to do. Is there anything else? I'm actually really curious because I've only ever been to Texas twice. One, because I was on a flight to somewhere else and it was on the way. And two, I was doing a mental health thing in 2019 and it was in Houston. And I remember, first of all, like as someone who's not from Texas, I guess I'm close enough, but like not really from Texas, there's all these stereotypes that people have, right? Like, y'all, everybody in Texas be talking like this country accent. Like, you expect like that, right? And you expect everyone to like have farms, and it's like everyone is just like, I mean, it's stupid, right? But then I go to Texas, or at least the parts of Texas, and I'm like, you know what? This is actually pretty nice. Like, I thought everyone was gonna be like super duper, like Trump, MAGA, ultra conservative. Not to say that being conservative is bad or anything. It was actually like more blue than I thought. It was more like the houses were nice. Like
Oh yeah, like
it was
big
pretty
cities
good.
in general are gonna be blue.
Yeah, it was like not to say that like it was good. Like what I'm saying is I went to Houston and it was like a pretty normal city to me. I was genuinely surprised at it. I don't know why I was. Um, so I'm really curious to hear like what your problems are with Texas because Texas is an interesting state. So I want to hear it.
So obviously, like our energy grid being like detached from everything else. Personally, I have like a lot of issues with like Greg Abbott. Him cutting like disabilities while also being disabled. That's a bit of a meme. Not gonna lie. Like,
Oh, he's the guy in the wheelchair.
he's the guy in the wheelchair,
Oh
and we also have like
yeah.
we have like his like stances on abortion are really like archaic too. Like same thing with like Ken Paxton, Ted Cruz, those folk.
Dare I say barbaric? I'm just kidding.
There
No,
you go.
I'm actually pro-life though, but yeah, no,
I mean, like
I had to.
I mean, it depends on why you're pro life and on why I'd be like a bit like contentious there. But like, I get the pro life position. I just like disagree with it.
I'll just
Like,
be very quick here. Oh, sorry.
my sort of like I guess olive branch would be like would be cutting off this on at fetal viability, and that would
So
yeah.
I'm just going to be really quickly. So what I say is like pro-life is preventing an innocent human being from being born without their consent. And what I would say to that is like I'm very careful with like I guess you could call it like murder, you could call it like all of these other things. And it's like I don't think it's important that it's like it's killing the child or killing. It's like I don't think it matters when that child becomes alive. Like if we're arguing these arbitrary things like when does this child have a heartbeat? When does this like you're going to lose those wars. I feel like what you need to do is be like regardless of what stage this child is at, if you do nothing to interfere, this is going to be a human being. So in order to basically make this interference and go out of your way to prevent this human being from being born, that's pretty awful. And to me, that's basically akin to murder.
I
So
I would hesitate to call a fetus a human being. I'd then have to ask you what a human being would be in that case.
well, that's the thing, though. It's like a fetus will become like that's the thing. It's like
It like are you talking about the ability for someone to become a person?
Well, what I'm saying
Is that like your
yeah? If you do nothing to interfere, that fetus will become a human being, and you know that. So if you go out of your way to prevent that from being a human being, that's an extremely immoral thing to do, and that's where I take issue. yourself?
I,
Yeah, I feel like it's
if you
better.
if you like prevent a person from becoming or preventing a fetus from becoming a human being.
Yeah,
I mean I would then have to like my sort of thing is like what and like in what way would like a I don't think that baby prevent or like consents to being born in that sense. I don't think like anything that's like in the womb necessarily like consents to like live in like specific conditions that they'd be born in.
Yeah,
And like I feel like that if like a baby were to be born, it should be under like the best possible circumstances that the parents can provide, because otherwise you commit the parents and that child to a substandard life.
so
And I think in that sense, like I think that prevents like that person from like living out their best lives that they can.
So, first of all, I think every child has the right to live. And I think it's interesting how you view this situation, because I hear this a lot, right? I think it's very interesting. It's like, it's suggesting that, like, a kid who's, like, poor isn't, like, as worth living. And it's like, well, I feel like, if you, let's say a kid isn't born in these ideal circumstances, they still should have those chances. It's like, oh, this kid didn't choose to be this way. I was like, ask someone, hey, you're poor, right? Would you rather be poor or be dead? It's like, I think most people would go to you and be like, well,
I wouldn't say dead. I would say like then to have never lived. I think is probably the more accurate thing.
I think people, when you talk to them, are happy that they got the opportunity to live. There's like fringe people online. It's like this weird thing. It's like, well, life isn't always better than not living. It's like, and it's so stupid. I have these arguments with these people. It's like, well, actually, you have this conception that life is always good and death is always bad. It's like, no shit. Like, are we really having this conversation?
I in that case I would hesitate to like moralize life and death in that sense. I don't think we should in that case. It's more so that I think people should be born in like the best possible opportunity that they can, and that if like if the person that would be carrying them doesn't feel like that they could provide that I think it would be in like everyone's best interest in that case to not go forth with that, because in that case it would make everyone's like lives like measurably worse. Because I think like a kid that would be born in better circumstances where those parents were able to like provide that kid like a good life are going to be much better off than than without. And I feel like we kind of get like it feels like a bit weird to like kind of like appeal to like specific people who are like, oh yeah, I'm fine with like or like I'm glad that I was like born in this certain scenario. I don't think people can really like relate to the idea of like never existing. Like I think that sort of idea is like very foreign to them, and almost in the sense that's like not comparable, because while some people can find like solace in like that they're making like the best of their lives, I think we ought to like make as like parents, I guess, or as potential parents, that we should afford our kids like the best like life possible, and or like in that way, or advocate for that sort of thing.
Well, all that really does, though, is it just results in like less poor people having kids, and then like the rich people are just gonna have as many kids. It's just resulting in less people being poor. It's not resulting in more people having a better thing.
And the way to like alleviate that would be to bring like a lot of like tax benefits to the poor, in the sense like we should like we could like incentivize like the poor having kids, if like that's your big issue, by like giving them like tax credits, a lot of like pro family policies do that sort of thing.
I'm totally pro family policies.
Sure, and like and I think that would, if you want to like raise like birth rates, I think like that could be like a route you go down in that sense. If like that's like the big thing. I don't, and personally, I don't really care too much about the birth rates. Like at some point, it could become an issue.
Japan.
We're like,
yeah.
but I think I think if we like take steps to make sure that it doesn't happen, that it won't. Specifically with like immigration, I think it's fine that we like that if we like allow immigrants to come in who we know are going to like create more kids. Like I'm fine with that sort of thing happening, and I'm also fine with that in conjunction with like giving people who want to have kids in the U.S. like benefits, so that later in life so that like they can like get a good start on life.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. What you were saying earlier, and I'm like, well, I want to make sure the kids that are born in the best scenario. What you're really doing is you're just like mass removing the kids who are in unideal scenarios and being like, oh, if this kid's going to be born in an ideal scenario, well, their life isn't as important, or it's better for society that they don't get to like it's these
I think it's better for the kid as well that they're born in a better scenario.
Well, the kid wouldn't be born though. That's what you're missing.
But
it's like that kid isn't going to magically be born in a better scenario. That kid just won't ever exist.
Sure, yeah. Like, and I guess I'm fine with that sort of scenario then.
It's like, okay, but here's the thing, like
because on one hand you can make the whole thing where fucking hell keeps disconnecting where you could appeal to like, oh, the kid won't have like all of these like positive experiences, but I can also like go the same way with like negative experiences. In that sort of sense. And I just think it's, and I think appealing to like either side of that would be like a bit of like an emotional appeal, and that's not necessarily something that I feel is like the most like prudent. Okay, I think what's more prudent is like the living conditions of that person.
Well, I would say even if the life conditions are poor, two things. I'll be very quick. I just want to finish these things real quick.
Yeah.
Even if they're poor, like I think it's still obviously like we can have this conversation, but I mean we're just gonna probably disagree, and I think it's silly because it's so obvious to me. Like just having the opportunity to be alive, just a net positive, significantly, substantially huge positive. And also, I want to say like there was this thing about abortion that really was like interesting to me. Like I feel like these ideas are so harmful. We look at Poland, and they had this like. I remember the media reporting like this huge like feminists were like rioting the streets for these abortion rights being taken away. I read these articles, and what happened was it was a law against eugenics because they wanted to prevent people from allowing them to have abortions because their kid had like Down syndrome or something. And it's like, okay, well this like it's like why are these feminists being so like heartless and evil? Basically marching in the streets being like, we want to kill our kids who have genetic defects, and we don't think that it's like, and then they had people with Down syndrome are like saying, well actually like we enjoy being alive, like we're valuable with life too. And it's like, and I agree that those people deserve to live, and it's like it's so like dystopian and weird. And it was like Poland was just trying to get rid of eugenics because I mean they had a history of eugenics in that country, and I feel like the law was just twisted into women's rights are being taken away. And it's like I feel like it's very important that people are allowed to live, and if you give people that quote unquote choice to do that, you're gonna lead to like these genetic deforms, like defect. Like what's gonna happen is, and this is like the scary thing, they're gonna see that the child has something abnormal with them, and then they're just gonna not have those kids and be like, oh, those kids aren't deserving of life because you can have a healthy kid instead. And that kid that's healthy, that doesn't have Down syndrome, that doesn't have these genetic defects, that kid's more worthy of life. And then you have sometimes like the doctors pressuring, like, oh well, you sure you don't want to like get rid of this baby, like it's going to be really expensive, it's going to be really like you're going to have to care really hard for this kid. And a lot of those parents are choosing to get rid of that, and what you're having is this erasure of these people with these things because they can detect it and get rid of it. It's essentially eugenics. It's essentially like all of this happening, and I don't see enough people like talking about that. And it's just weird how people are okay with it in the sake of abortion's great, killing babies is great, and I'm just like, I don't know, clown world in my opinion.
I mean, hold on, I'm like trying to read up on like the Poland abortion law here, because I don't know if it's entirely just I don't know if like there's like more than just eugenics here. Hold on.
Oh, it was an abortion law, right? But then,
Right.
and it's funny. I think the feminists complained that it was labeled as a eugenics thing. I would personally agree with the eugenics labeling because the law was that women should be able to have abortions even when like the kid has like Down syndrome or like some kind of genetic thing. That the woman should have the right to terminate that pregnancy. And like the women were like, okay, well, Poland already has one of the strictest abortion things of any like European country, or whatever, and now they're limiting it even more. This is one of the few circumstances left, and they're getting rid of even that. And I feel like that's how they viewed the scenario. So I'm trying to be as unbiased as I can, and I believe that that's how that was viewed. I'm not like super knowledgeable. I just remember it trending on Twitter, and I clicked on the article, and I was like, wait, what the fuck? It's like they're complaining, wow, feminist rights are being taken away. I read the article, it's like, oh my god.
So if I'm taking this in like the most charitable way possible, um, even if there's like the whole eugenics thing, but then on the other hand, like the medical expenses for that sort of for treating those folk are the cost of like living for those kids are like considerably higher. It creates like a much higher like financial burden on like that entire family, and that I think that without like providing like steps from like the government to be able to like help like alleviate those costs or to like provide like medical care, then there's not that much incentive for the family to like carry that child to term, because it would create like an immeasurably like worse
Wait,
like life on all three of those people at that
so
point.
if somebody's too expensive to live, then they're just not worth living anymore. Like that's silly. Like
I
I
mean,
just
like
want to.
these are like very real like situations that people have to deal with. Like it's not necessarily that it's like just the like too financially burdensome. Like it's that it's also like time consuming. Like raising a child on its own is incredibly time consuming. But if you don't have like the proper resources to be able to like raise that child, then then the chances that that child will go on and like do like decent things or to like go do well in life are like slimmer than those who get like a good start in life.
Yeah,
And I think
they
a lot,
deserve
and
it.
I think like sure, and if you agree with that, then you would want to have those. You want to have like those laws then tied in with like assistance from the government, or
But I agree with that.
better yet. I'm going to go with like the low government stance here and say that we probably shouldn't get the government involved with like abortion in that sense. I think that if you just provide the incentives to help a family like take care of like a child uh, who may have like Down syndrome or autism and all that, and I would say like give them the resources to be able to like do that sort of thing, to be able to raise that child, and
Well, yeah.
and I think that you should be able to like put the decision in the hands of the parents. I don't think you should give that decision to or have the government force that decision upon them.
Well, I feel
And
like even if sorry.
and like on top of that, like this kind of like gets into like the where I believe like you could limit abortion, and that would be at sort of like that fetus being viable as a human outside of the womb. I think like ultimately we should limit we should limit abortion to whether or not like that person would live outside the womb, and in that case, if the family doesn't want it for whatever reason, that child, if they're past fetal viability, should go through like the adoption system, and we should fund the adoption system a lot more
Okay.
too. Like I feel like I feel like a lot of these like pro-life folk. I'm not saying that this is necessarily like you, but a lot of pro-life folk will want to just restrict abortions and then do nothing else. And I feel like
Yeah.
I feel like we should prioritize like the decision of like the individual in this case, because this directly affects their lives. And I think if we put the government involved with that, then we're kind of like assigning people to live measurably worse lives, and we're putting that kid in a worse situation as well.
Okay. Let me know when you're done.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So I feel like we I absolutely support, like, I'm pro UBI, I'm pro, like, better healthcare, like, systems. I'm pro, like, helping families and, helping them be able to financially provide, right? And I still want all that stuff. And, like, that, I guess, makes me different from, like, some pro-life people. I don't think that you have to believe those things to be pro-life, but I strongly believe in all of those things, all together. So, like, all the pro-choicers can't, like, say, oh, well, you don't care about this. Like, you can't pull that argument on me, okay? But at the same time, just because you're funding that doesn't mean you keep abortions, like, legal. Obviously, you keep them allowed, like, when the mother's life's in danger, right? Like, obviously, you have to do that. Or, like, you can point to, like, I don't know. But, like, besides that, I still think it's this huge immoral thing that we need to make it illegal and we need to make it accessible to have these kids. But it's like, we have these systems in place. Like, there's no excuse to have these abortions anymore. So it gives us even more reason, in my opinion, to make it
I
illegal.
disagree. Like in the U.S., we definitely do have like a major reason to have abortions because there is a very like real lack of support, like financially and like and even through like with a lot of like a lack of paid time off as well. Like that also is like a bit of an issue. And then of course like the lack of financial resources, the lack of access to like healthcare for a lot of these people, like that maybe even like the conditions that the family is in aren't necessarily like great for the child either. Like they could be living in like a lead filled household or apartment, and that can be a sort of thing that's an issue. And I think that the only way I could like get behind the idea of like restricting abortions is if the kids themselves had like a baseline, like a opportunity of like a decent life.
Well,
But even then, like, and the other thing is like you would have to give me a reason to say that we should like supersede the rights of like the individual for that child to be born in that case, and that should be enforced by the government.
Okay. Well, I would say that even if I'm going to get through a lot, so I would hope that I get to finish it all. But I promise I'll try to be quick with this. So I'm going to say a few things. First of all, even if there is a reason to have abortions, I still doesn't give you a right to like murder the child. Like, oh no, this person's bothering me. My life would be easier. Like, it doesn't give you the right to just like, oh well, I guess I'm just going to prevent this person from living or kill this person or whatever. Also, I don't think parents should be allowed to have that decision, like to end the life of their kid or prevent the kid from being born. Also, I want to compare this, like we were talking about the eugenics thing. I want to mention something happening in Canada right now: a lethal euthanization, something I'm strongly against. What's happening is that it's expensive to keep these people alive and put these in these systems. So what they're doing is they were literally proof of this. Like they're pressuring people into like wanting to like do this forced euthanasia. People with like really bad cancer, or even people with, like severe mental health issues or whatever. They're like putting this offer on the table, and it's like they're not supposed to do it, but it's like it's cheaper for the hospital, it's cheaper for them, and being like, their families gonna have to pay this, and it was just like evil, the stuff that they were doing. And this is why I'm so pro-life in all of these instances. It's really scary what they're doing. It's eugenics. It's like literally like the part of the giver. It's like all of these like really scary things happening. And I'm really scared of what this world is going moving forward. I think Hitler would be very happy with these laws. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay, so see the problem is that I don't think like I feel like that you could have like the sort of like the sort of like suicide pods that you see in like Europe, while like also simultaneously having like every possible like chance to like have like a decent life or like have decent resources given to you from birth and be able to like carry out like a decent life, and then still choose to want to end that for yourself at the end of the day. Like if it like it, and it doesn't even have to be for like anything like particularly negative, like that like a lot of like older people kind of go through this same thing too. Anecdotally speaking, my grandmother, she passed away like about it was like December of like last year, like late December last year, with kidney disease. And it was the same thing that my grandfather had died from, like, all the way back in 2012. And my grandfather went through... I can hear myself, I think.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it's, like, echoing right now.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah.
I don't know what's doing that.
Okay, I think it's fixed now. Oh, no, I still hear myself. Never mind. There could be, like, something feeding back. What are you having this conversation on? Just curious.
I'm laying down on the bed right now. I don't know if that's causing that.
If it's playing through your phone, then...
No, I have my AirPods on. That's not playing through any phone. It's just my AirPods.
So, maybe I'm just, like, that loud.
I'll mute myself
That it's...
right now just to show you. Okay, I'll mute my...
Alright. That's weird. It might just be that it's picking up on...
So, it's still there even though I muted myself, right?
Yeah.
So that would prove that it's not me.
Hold on. That's
So
weird.
I know it's something technical. I have no idea what's going on there.
So then it could be on my end then. That's weird.
I have no idea.
Hold on.
It just does. I've heard that happen to me sometimes, where it's like I'm talking with other people and then it echoes me, and it's like, why am I hearing my voice? It's very odd.
All right. How about now?
No, it's not echoing for me. It's
Okay. I think I'm fine now.
Oh, you're good?
Yeah, I think I'm fine now. Fuck, were you making a point earlier? I think you were.
I don't know. I pretty much said what I wanted to say in that regard, honestly.
But yeah, I think you can... Oh yeah, that's right. I was on the example with my grandparents. My grandfather had gone through dialysis for his, like, kidney disease for, like, so long, and his quality of life was pretty shit. Like he couldn't really, like, go out on his own all that much. We had to, like, wheelchair him around, especially, like, closer to, like, the end of his life. And it wasn't, like, that much, like, it wasn't very, like, satisfactory for him to, like, lose, like, a lot of his independence in that sense. And so my grandmother, also suffering with that same thing, she decided that, like, instead that she would go for as long as she can before, like, the kidney disease progressed to the point where it would just, like, kill her, basically. And her life, in my opinion, was definitely, like, a bit more, like, fulfilling. She was while she was, like, retired from, like, being a nurse, she was a dog trainer, and she would like, help all these, like, other people out with, like, training their dogs and all that, and, like, getting them ready for competitions, including her own. And in fact, I have, like, where my family keeps like, 2 of her dogs that she had raised because of that. So like, there is, like, a good reason, I think, for having like those, like, suicide pods, if you feel like that you're getting to the point in your life where you feel like you don't really have, like, the ability to live a fulfilling life, in your opinion. And I think that people ought to have that choice to terminate their lives. Now to separate that from, like, say, like a mental illness or something, or like because of, like, depression, I think that in those cases you would have to, like, consult multiple psychologists even, and to see if, like, this is, like, something that you want to do at the end of the day. And like, you should have, like, everything laid out plans wise before doing so.
So I'm probably on the extreme of this. I am very anti-death. I'm very anti this altogether. I think most people, not me, but most people would say, I think this is okay only for the terminally ill, and it shouldn't be pressured, but it should be like, these options are there, but it's like, you shouldn't pressure. If someone wants, I think most people would say, if someone wants it, they should be able to. If they, like, are terminally ill, like, they shouldn't have to, like, go through, like, months of treatment, they're just going to die anyway. Like, I feel like that's how most people feel. I would say I'm just, like, against it altogether. I mean, I like I said, it's a very sad and very tricky situation, I guess, in that I would say the slippery slope thing. I just worry about where this leads, and I don't like the idea of, like, legal suicide. It's just a very ugh thing for me. But I mean, like, I know where I stand. It's, like, not, like, the most popular. Like, I mean, I don't know.
I feel like more people would.
I'm just pro-life on everything.
Yeah. And sure, I guess you're consistent in that aspect. I just fall a lot more on like the individual liberties and like pro-choice side of things.
That makes sense. No, that makes sense to me.
All of this from like what I hate about Texas.
Dude, I'm so sorry.
No, you're fine. No, I'm enjoying this conversation.
I am too. I'm actually surprised. I'm sorry I delayed it so long. I was gonna ask you, unless you wanted to say anything more about abortion, but I think we covered a lot. What other parts of Texas do you hate, or what's interesting about it? 'Cause I'm actually genuinely curious.
I do have like a fear that our education system might get like fucked from like a creationism. Like this is like I feel like it's like a bit of an older issue in some aspects, but like the religious right in Texas has like a bit of a spot, I think. Considering that a lot of people in Texas lean conservative and in that case like religious, I fear that a lot of our like scientific like aspects of education might be a bit plagued by people who want to spread like like pseudoscience.
I was gonna ask, like, what do they say? Because I've seen like people post their textbooks like the South, like about slavery and stuff. Like, do they teach like, I don't know.
Do they teach what now?
Do they like? Because I know some textbooks they kind of like whitewash it, like make it seem like this war was about like states' rights instead of actual like.
Oh yeah, like on the history aspect of that, that's more of like a conservative, like harken back to like the Confederacy type folk. Like, and that's also an issue, I think. Not just like in Texas, but like broadly in like the South, trying to rewrite history in that sense. And I don't think in my experiences going through that I had that much of an issue because I think one, I kind of avoided a lot of that because I was in high school, I was in AP classes.
Oh, nice.
So I got a lot more of like the in-depth like, oh shit, no, don't kill the horde. Rip. Oh, well.
That's your game.
Yeah. Yeah. But fuck, I lost the point there because I got distracted.
I can't see what's going on there, but it's very sad for you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just that I'm not one to like gank a lot of like the enemy faction, like unless they like do something stupid to me. Anyways, regarding like history and stuff, like I kind of like dodged a lot of the bullets with like poor education, mainly because I was able to like be in like the more advanced classes, so I was able. It comes with like the general understanding that like. Those kids are able to understand like those events on a bit of a deeper level, rather than like who did the Gettysburg Address and all that shit. Yeah. So like personally, I may not have like experienced that, but I've like seen things on like a broader level in education where there's like meetings at the Texas Education Agency, and there are people who are advocating for pushing creationism, and who are advocating for politicians who want to push that, or advocating for like school districts to do so, and I think that sort of thing is really dangerous.
Do they like not teach evolution, or like when they do teach evolution, is it like a very like controversial, like weird thing? Like, how do they get around that then?
I've heard stories in like East Texas where like there were teachers who would more in like the religious like private schools who would do that sort of thing. Like in public schools, I don't know how pervasive it was, but it was usually in like the more private like religious academies where they would like push those like alongside. Because I think in like private schools you still had like teach like a general curriculum. I just don't know if you had like as much like restrictions in that sense. And that could could just be like my like general ignorance on like that aspect of education, but I did fear a lot of like that the religious right would kind of like fuck over education in that sense, and those fears are a bit more realized in like the whole CRT and like should we teach kids about like the LGBTQ folk stuff.
Oh yeah, I'm sure that's like a big no-go, like LGBT.
Oh fucking hell, like That sort of thing bothers me. Like even though like I'm gonna do a little id pull here. I'm a straight cis guy.
Oh yeah.
Like
Well, I'm the token trans woman.
there we go.
Yeah.
There we go. I can't be transphobic. I've got a trans person that agrees with me. There you go.
Yeah.
But
Although
like,
I'm actually, oh, sorry.
no, go ahead. What were you about to
I was
say?
just gonna say, first of all, I've actually, so my mom's a teacher, first of all, and Arizona doesn't have the best education. I've heard her tell me stories that, like, they actually had a meeting about CRT, basically going over the Arizona law and how, like, this is how you had to teach these things, and you weren't allowed to, like, teach it in the way, basically, like, how you're not allowed to say, like, one race is, like, better than the other, and it was, like, basically very anti-CRT, and that was just like how Arizona is a conservative state for the time being. We're getting more purple as we go along, and also I've taken a critical race theory class in college, and it was a college class, so it's very different. But I learned a lot of interesting things. It was actually a very interesting class, and it wasn't like kind of how I thought. It was kind of what I thought it would be, but at the same time, it was like I had fun in it. I don't know. I'm gonna see.
Oh, from my understanding, like CRT is a bit more like it's a lot more of like the legal theory and like that sort of like analysis of how laws affect people. In that sense, that any class that would be like teaching that sort of thing would probably be like teaching a bit of like a dumbed down like so that people who aren't training to be lawyers can understand type shit. And like that the general ideas of those are that like systemic racism like it exists like and there are like laws that even though they may not have been like codified to like specifically target black people or that there may not be like racist actors. I think I'm just like defining systemic racism at this point, but that the criminal justice system did like fuck over black people disproportionately or fucked over minorities in general disproportionately.
Well, yeah.
And I think that's a sort of thing that I think could be a bit hard for people to tackle if they're like not familiar with it.
I mean, I've had people say like, "Oh, well, they're not going to teach critical race theory in anything that isn't college," and it's like, I mean, yeah, I was in college when I took the class. I mean, like, there are going to be teachers who are going to want to teach like, "Oh, systemic racism is a thing,"
right?
Like,
and I think a lot of like the lawmakers in that sense intentionally conflate CRT with like discussing systemic racism in that sense.
yeah.
Because well, you could, I think in theory you could potentially teach CRT in a very like basic way where it's like where you're not really getting into like the legal theory all that much.
Uh-huh.
I think like most of that content would be reserved for those who are going into like the legal areas of it all.
Right.
So, yeah. And then like then all the like LGBTQ stuff, like the whole discourse about like calling those folk like groomers, it's and then like like it's so fucking toxic. It's just like that, like reframing like an entire like marginalized group of people and calling them like groomers because you don't agree with them. Like it's pretty fucking bad.
Dude, this is literally just like the Ron DeSantis like Florida thing, but in Texas.
It's I don't know if it's gone that far yet.
Oh, really?
But like, there's hold on, let me make sure. Cause I might have been a little bit since I've looked a bit deep into this.
When I was 14 and I transitioned, I was like I was the first transgender student the school had ever had because it was 2014. I was 14 and like no one really knew what that meant. And it was like I never got like an environment of like quote unquote hostility, but it was like commonly known like they weren't gonna let me use like the right restrooms or locker rooms. Like that was just never gonna happen. What they made me do is they made me like go to this PE class that was like co-ed. And it was literally so like they had all the kids with like really bad disabilities, like it was like the special ed, and then they had like the helpers, and then they said, "Oh, you'll just be one of the helpers." And then when you change in the nurse's office. And so if I wanted to use the restroom, I would have to use like the nurse's restroom. And I had like a big high school, And to go in between classes was like, it was like we only had 3 to 4 minutes. And if I wanted to walk just to the nurse's like place, that would take 5 minutes just to walk there because it was the very other end of the college or the high school, or it was high school. It was like the ninth grade, first semester, ninth grade. And I just held my pee the entire day. I just didn't use the restroom because it was just, I couldn't go at any time. And I didn't have like a lot of lunchtime. I just had to eat my food. It was like a whole mess. It was not an ideal situation. Um, I, it was like, it was very hard. And I couldn't tell anyone I was trans because like people weren't really supportive at the time. Like no one knew what it meant. I was like scared, but I never got the idea that like anyone was like super hostile, and like this whole groomer thing and this whole like transphobia narrative, it's all recent. I feel like people are more accepting now, but at the same time, because the visibility is increased, the
You
hostility
have
has
like a
increased
higher
too.
polarization of
Oh,
people.
sorry, what does that mean? Oh
You
yeah, I thought
yeah,
you were
people
saying
become like more polarized in that sense.
exactly that. Like we didn't have the cringy neo-pronoun people in 2014, but we also didn't have like the crazy transphobes too.
Right,
So it's like,
right.
pick your poison.
Right, and also on like the recent like LGBTQ stuff, the GOP in Texas it considers like gay people and like trans people like abnormal, like and like part of their like plan, their like official plan is to, like oppose like all efforts like 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 integrate them into society and like talk about them in any other way that's not like gay people bad, or it specifically opposes all efforts to validate transgender identity. So it's like explicitly anti-gay, anti-trans, and also there's a specific law that's like a that was being pushed. Regard or not? I don't think it was even a law. It was like I'm reading it right now. It was like a letter to state health agencies saying that gender affirming medical treatments are child abuse. Or
Well,
to like trans youth.
child abuse. Not fucking like I took it as 14 and I was very happy for it. I'm 22 now. It was a good decision. I was gonna say it's like, oh, you want to integrate trans people? You know how you integrate trans people into society and so we be normal? You let us transition and you let us transition young so that we pass really well and so people look at us and they just see us as a gender that we identify as and like they just see me as a cis woman. That's called me integrating in society. So if that's really what you want,
But to
then that's the
conservatives,
way
it's
to
called
do
you
it.
being groomed, basically. And a lot of the rhetoric behind like the whole grooming shit, it comes from a place where people are able to like obfuscate how transgender like medical care works. Like a lot of it is
Yeah,
talking to psychologists, talking to like endocrinologists, talking to like other doctors, and eventually like talking about getting a surgery if need be. Like
yeah.
it's like a like transition. It's not like this like, oh, I feel like I want to play with dolls one day. I'm a girl now. Like it's this like this whole like the idea of being like a certain gender. It's like this. It's a bit more of a persistent feeling that you're like this type of
Yep.
person, and not this sort of like run of the like this sort of just like, oh, on a whim, like I feel like I'm this today.
And when I was a girl at 2 years old, I kept telling my parents over and over, and those feelings never went away. People at the time said it was a phase, and they never told me that being trans was a thing. I was 14. I had these feelings like really, really bad when I was like 12, but they were always there in the back of my mind. I transitioned at 14. I guarantee you, nobody is forcing me to transition. Okay, that shit just doesn't fucking happen. Oftentimes, when I go to a doctor, like I have to like get them to understand. Like I have to like, I was talking to like the first person I saw in a while, and it was like clearly I was one being like, hey, I need more medication. I need like a refill of these doses, and like I'm the one who has to advocate for myself here, right? Like no doctor's forcing me to transition. That's stupid. Like why that's like just not a fucking thing that happens. Like the parents aren't like I guess you could point to like one or two cases ever, and it's like universally like everyone like disagrees, but it's like not really a thing that happens. Parents are not forcing their kids to be trans. The opposite is happening. There's a mass epidemic of kids who are trans and parents who aren't supporting them and letting them transition. Parents are not forcing this. These kids are telling their parents,
this is what I am, and the parents are sometimes accepting, but oftentimes they're not.
And yeah, that makes sense. And there's like, I feel like these parents can kind of be like broken down into three categories, or even four actually. There's like two different categories where like the parent is like accepting, and those are the parents that either A, do understand, which I believe is like in the very, very small minority, like
Yeah.
in that case. And then those are the parents that are like, that don't understand, but will will kind of just go along with it because like they kind of don't know, it's like a new experience, and it's kind of new waters for them. And then there's like the parents that are like, then there's like the other two groups where the parents are like hesitant, or like, oh, I don't know, like we should probably like step things back a little bit. And then you have like the more blatant ones that are like like yeah, hell no, like you're my son, not my daughter, like the vice versa and all that shit.
Well,
Like, and I think
Sorry.
those people are probably the scariest because those come primarily from I'd say like a hyper like religious background, like religious conservative background, and
Yeah.
there's a reason why there's a Bible Belt in the U.S., and it's because like there's a lot of like these conservative Christians who oppose a lot of these things and who oppose a lot of social progress. And also at Rakasan, Rose may have like really bad, like I'd say like can have bad takes about music. Like she's an okay person, so like
Thank you. I'm glad you think I'm an okay person. Not a good person, apparently, just an okay person. Heartbroken. Sadly. I hope yeah.
like
I was like, but like what?
yeah, just but like there's just but going back to like the conversation we had a second ago, these like ultra conservative Christians have like a lot of power in the government,
Yes.
and it's really scary seeing that sort of power utilized.
Yeah. I just want to say one thing. Like, I just want to mention, like, you were mentioning the different kinds of parents. I was gonna say, my parents didn't fully understand it at first, and I had to explain to them what it was because I think they were kind of confused. But like, they still supported me, and they were still like, they still let me transition. They got it, I think, eventually, and they were like with me. So in the general grand scheme of things, like, I feel like they supported me, but at the same time, and that's like, I feel like better than like most people have it. But at the same time, it's like, I feel like at the same time, like, they don't like fully get it. But I mean, I can't really complain. Like, I haven't really had it. Like, when it comes to like the trans stuff, I guess I've been pretty lucky. I don't know.
Yeah,
That's all I was gonna say.
I mean, considering that you transitioned at 14, I'd say yeah, you're pretty damn lucky.
Yeah, I always go like, oh, I wish I would transition at 12 and all that shit. It's like most people are like, you passed so well. Like, you just look and sound like a cis girl, and I'm like, thank you. But I always like think to myself like, oh, what if I did this, or what if I blah blah blah, and I'm just like, oh, I wish I would have. I don't know, or I wish I was just born a cis woman. But what can you do?
I mean, you kind of got to deal with the cards that you're dealt at the end of the day.
Sad face cry.
Yeah.
Dude, and it sucks. Like, nobody chooses to be trans. Like, I was just born. Like, I fully believe in male and female brains. Hashtag controversial. Like, I was just born in the wrong body. It's just how it was. Like, I can't really do anything about it. And it's like fucking conversion therapy. We all agree that this was this barbaric practice. Yes, I'm using that word again. It's this and I feel like in this case it's justified. Conversion therapy is a barbaric method that should never be accepted. Yet for whatever reason, there's people out there who think, well, if trans people are just like, no, you can't make someone not be trans. Like, and I feel like people don't understand this. But I don't know. It's not a social contagion. I mean, I guess maybe the neo-pronoun shit's kind of like, I don't know, with like people with mental illnesses, but like actual like trans people, like it's not. I don't know. I just don't think people get it, and I feel like a lot of people aren't doing us any favors either.
Yeah, I think
sorry.
I think a lot of. Yeah, I think talking about the neopronouns real quick. I mean, I'm okay with them. Same thing with like xenogenders in the sense that they're like nicknames. Like I think that's kind of like how I've rationalized it at this point. I think they're akin to like nicknames, and that how I kind of like view how gender could like kind of be mapped and say like a coordinate plane. I think that there's like I think how it works is like there's like these how people like understand their genders, that there's like intensities of like their masculinity and femininity, and like whether how intense they are, like that kind of like determines like where they fall along, like whether they're like agender or like or whether they're like man woman. And then I guess the other aspect of that kind of being like their like ties to like whether they're like they ties to like I guess like a specific label, and like how they want to present as, because there's differences between like presenting as like a femboy versus like a girl. Right, and then there's like the whole, like the buff like butch lesbian types versus like versus like the like masculine men and all that. And I haven't quite like figured out like the specifics of it, but I have like a generalized idea. And how I view like xenogenders is that they're these sort of like proxies to a gender, in that they aren't exactly genders, but like they kind of like give a person an idea of like where they might be. And I feel like that, and how I view gender sort of accounts for like gender fluidity as well. And I feel like neo-pronouns are like kind of like little cool ways to like express like your gender, in the sense of like similar to like how a nickname kind of like is a different way to like describe a person that you're talking to, or like a different name for that person. Which on one hand, like I think like I think my view of it right now is like that's fine with that, but I also see the issue where like I don't exactly view like xenogenders as genders, and so like treating them like nicknames, it has the problem where like eventually like sometimes nicknames can become like the only name that a person's known by. Like to give an example, like personally, like my IRL name is Nicholas, but most people that know me IRL call me Nick.
Yeah, that seems very reasonable. Yeah, exactly.
And so like mapping that similarly to that, like there would eventually be a point where like you could consider xenogenders genders at that point, which I haven't quite exactly reconciled in that aspect. But of course this is more like this gets into more like gender theory, which like personally like I'm kind of like fine with where I'm at right now. I don't feel like I really want to get into like gender theory all that deeply, because I'm much more interested in like rocket science.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
No. I'm just like talking about my thoughts.
Okay. I just
on that, on like that aspect of discourse, and then because I'm like rambling the fuck on right now, but
good.
And then like on the other side of that, I do believe that like conversion therapy is like very much wrong to use on like trans people and like gay people and all that, because I feel like that people like their gender, like man, woman, like non-binary, I feel like that's like who they are, and I don't feel like that can be changed. Like that's a bit of like a persistent feeling that they have. And yeah.
Sorry. No, you keep going.
And to like say that like people can choose to be this way, it's like I feel like it's really harmful.
Okay, I was just gonna say, when it comes to the neopronoun shit, it's like, to me, the only real genders or the only real pronouns are he, she, and they. Anything else is fake, and it's just harmful. Like I used to not like feel so good about like non-binary stuff. It's like, and then I came to the conclusion, it's like, it's not for me. I can't relate to this. I don't understand this fully. But there's people like that. It's whatever. People don't attach to gender. As long as they're not trying to say gender is a social construct, and actually, just because I don't resonate with gender means that everyone should resonate with gender. As long as they're not trying to tear down the fabric of what gender is, which a lot of them are, but not all of them, then I'm cool with it. It's just the problem is that a lot of those people see it the whole way. Also, it's like, if you call yourself like Zier, Zim, Zyre, or whatever the fuck these neopronouns are, or like Fae, like fairy pronoun, like that shit's not real, and it just makes trans people look bad. These are just people who want to be seen as normal, right? As regular trans people. And you have these people, it makes the movement look bad. It's like you can't be a dog gender, you can't be a cat gender, you can't be a dragon gender, you can't be a fairy gender. These are
See,
people with severe mental illnesses, and it's just making actual trans people look terrible.
see, like when I got into hot water with like the xenogender crowd,
Dude,
the people who like the people who say that anyone who says that they're a gender like is that gender, like I memed on Twitter that I was a skelegender because bones have two. and people like what's her face, like the vamp girl,
Oh yeah.
like and this like culminated after like a couple days of me like trying to like explain how I feel like gender works and how I feel like xenogenders would work in that sense. And like and I was just like, eventually like one person just like fucking like said something like really stupid, so I'm like, you know what, fuck it, I'm skelegender now, and if you tell me that it's not valid, then guess what, you're transphobic. And I caught a lot of transphobes in that sense, because then they were like, you're sus, so therefore your gender is wrong. Like, like, and it was kind of I kind of like went Joker mode on them, where I was like, you know what, yeah, no, y'all are transphobic, I'm fighting against transphobes. Like, it's just like,
it's insanity. You know, years ago when someone called a trans person it was the most offensive, awful, terrible shit. And now we have neo-pronoun people who unironically call themselves it. It's like, it's absurd. Like it's so far removed from someone who's been in this community. Like I've been, trans for a long time. I've seen the shift happen, and it worries me because this is not the community that I feel like I was a part of. Like, Caitlyn Jenner came out in 2015. Like I came out as trans before that, and that was, I feel like, when most people like, really first understood and were exposed to the concept of being trans. And ever since that point, and the years since, there's just been this like slow shift over time. And it's like I said, it's still that mixed bag thing. Like I said before, there's some good and there's some bad.
right. And I think that like trans discourse has kind of like progressed to like these like really like weird like ideas online, and I feel like that those sorts of ideas will kind of like sort themselves out in like academia.
Dude,
and I feel like that like the umpteenth conversation on whether like xenogenders are real or not, like I feel like that at the end at the end of the day, it's like not really worthwhile talking about. I just think it's like it's funny to like meme on sometimes if people have like really inconsistent frameworks about someone's gender identity.
Oh yeah.
And it distracts from like the main issues. So.
No, I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt you. I was just gonna say, I hate my identity being up for debate. I hate that, like, are trans people valid is like a hot button, controversial, hot topic in like American politics discourse. And it's like me being in these debate streamers, even these lefty spaces, like me being trans is like, for whatever reason, that's just like this big thing, like, ooh, this person's trans, and like, this person has like when I debate. Like so often, I talked to someone just the other day, like just a few days ago, who wanted to talk to me, and I didn't even know who this person was. I forgot what this person wanted to talk to me. I talked to him, and I realized very quickly that this dude doesn't accept trans people, and the whole debate is going to be, are trans people valid actually? And it was just like, I felt like I did okay, but like obviously I wasn't convincing him because he was basically telling me like, well, you're actually denying reality and like biology, and it's like, what am I supposed to say to this dude? I was trying to be nice, but it's like, like I don't know how I'm supposed to have a conversation like that.
For me, like conversations with those people for me go like one of two ways.
Yeah.
if I know that the person is already going to be starting off like saying like dumb shit because like they want to like validate their point and they want to be like, lol, I am standard transphobe. I'm right here to wreck like the SJW lib cuck. Like at that point, I kind of just like I get really condescending with them, and the moment they say something dumb, like I just jump on them. Because at that point, you know that they're not there to like, you know, have a good faith conversation. They're just there to dunk on trans people. And with like the bioessentialism shit, like I just run down like a good old fashioned like dialogue tree with them. If I force them to make a criteria for what they believe like a man or woman would be, like something that would be essential to that category. And it's basically the chair problem that like Destiny and Vosh have like used. And every time they like make like a specific like biologically essential characteristic, either like it's either like so vague that they like make it apply to something that fits and doesn't fit the category, or you find something that we would consider that both parties would consider like a woman, say for someone who doesn't have like a vagina, let's say vaginal agenesis. Like if someone doesn't have a vagina, that either they're a woman or they're not. And a lot of these people will either try to like change it to like a different criteria once they realize that what they said was dumb, or they somehow like try to like weasel their way out of it. And I feel like pushing them to like deal with their inconsistencies, while it may not work on them, like it may not change their mind, it would change other people's minds and like make them look silly. And then the other half of that is like the person who like doesn't really understand, and at that point you kind of don't like put them into like those traps. At that point you kind of just talk to them and say like, oh yeah, trans people are just like people like you and me. There's just like a discontinuity between like their outward appearance as you see it currently with their gender identity, their internal feelings.
Yeah.
And how I would relate that is would say like if it's like a guy, it's like you wouldn't like wearing a dress all the time because it doesn't help you feel like a guy. Like it makes you feel like that you're appearing as a woman in that sense instead of a guy, and that makes you uncomfortable. And that sort of thing, I try to like get people to like relate to trans people in a way that they would generally understand. Because like we could go into like how deep like we could go into like how like dresses aren't like essentially like for men or essentially for women, or and like go down that rabbit hole for like 10 million years and get nowhere. But like most people will generally understand like the dress girl suit guy thing, and you can then have a conversation from there.
Oh, 100%. Dresses are absolutely for women. Like, I fucking
No.
over and over.
Nah.
And it's like, no. It's very important that we have these distinctions so that trans people can, like, have this thing and be like, I'm wearing a dress. That means that I want to be seen as a woman. Well, actually, dress clothing doesn't have gender. That's stupid.
I mean, like, if you're, like, discussing, like, the nitty-gritty of, like, of that sort of thing, yeah, I do agree with the sentiment that, like, dresses aren't, like, all for women, or that suits are all for men. But if we're trying to like get people to like understand like in general, like what like trans people and like how gender works, then yeah, you're gonna have to like resort to those like very easily like identifiable things.
I'm very, like I said, it's controversial. Like on a lot of shit for this. I just feel like, you know, it's important that we have these clothing specifically for like women, specifically for men. And it's another reason why I fucking hate drag queens so much. Well, we don't have to go down this rabbit hole, but, you know, I mean, it's a whole thing. I had this other thing I was going to say. Fuck, I can't remember what it was. So, that's unfortunate. If I remember what it was, I'll get back to it. But I had this whole thing I was going to talk about. That sucks. Anyway, sorry.
No worries. Like, that's fine. Like, I'm just
thinking what we were talking about before. Maybe I'll think of it again.
I mean, we were talking about like how we approach like conversations with like people who may not like agree with like trans people and all that.
Oh yeah, I remember what I was gonna say. I wish I would have recorded that debate that I did with that person because like I think I did a really good job. Like I think I did a pretty good job, but there were some things I think to myself like I know other people would have had this conversation differently. And I feel like maybe other people could have had this conversation better. But at the same time, I wonder if sometimes when people have these conversations are like are they going a bit too far or like is this like transphobic person going to check out because at some point if you say these certain things, this person's going to be like, oh, well, this person's just like a woke SJW, and they're just not going to listen. So it's like, how am I supposed to have this conversation? I don't know how successfully I did this. I just keep thinking, like, what's the best way to get through to this person? And I know some people be like, well, you can't. It's like, I don't like that answer. It's like, obviously, it's going to be hard, and you probably aren't going to be able to from one conversation, but like, I feel like it's worth trying. And I don't know. I don't know what the best thing to do is.
I mean,
It's weird.
I personally don't really know that answer either. Like on one hand, I do like the sentiment of like I feel like I can help this person understand and like make things better, but on the other hand, I sometimes feel like that mindset can be a bit naive because I don't think
Yeah.
most people would would be on board with that.
Yeah. Like,
Or like be on board like the people that you disagree with wouldn't like change their minds immediately or like in the near
exactly.
future.
Like maybe I'm this bigot and I have these like super like problematic views. Like I can use my opinion on abortion. Like Rose Millet is not going to suddenly become pro-choice, even though I'm more sympathetic to the pro-choice position than people would think. And I'm pro-life myself, but like I'm kind of sympathetic to it. But like I don't change my mind like immediately. And people, when they talk to me, they have to realize like I'm probably not going to change my mind. When I talk to people, I know that they're probably not going to change their mind, and I'm cool with that. That's not my intention. I just want people to be more sympathetic to my point of view and to understand my point of view better. And if we can accomplish that, then I feel like that was successful. And when I talk to other people, unless they're like big transphobes, and I'm probably not going to feel that way, unless my personal identity be attacked there. But for most people, if I talk to them and they're pretty civil to me, I go out of that conversation being more sympathetic to their point of view, and maybe my point of view adjusts over time. Like, I had a controversial debate with Xander all those years ago about like EO pronouns, like non-binary people. I met a really close friend who was non-binary, and like my views changed and became like better because of them. So, this stuff does happen, but it's like slow, gradual stuff, and you can't fundamentally change who a person is from one conversation. So you just have to be realistic about your goals.
Yeah, I think so. Like you have to understand who you think you're able to convince, and there are very few people that are going to be that on the fence about things, and I feel like that's where you can like spend the most time like being like a good faith and like having like those conversations. But like most people, I would say like I consider would be like lost causes in the short term, and that there's like no way to really like help that. And personally, I have like I have a friend who has like another person that she talks to, who wants to like convince him on like the like trans issues and all that. Okay. But like she also talks about how he's like super like confrontational and all that, and or like he doesn't like getting into like heated arguments because he'll just shut down a lot. And I think like that sort of thing is like pretty common with like most people. Is that they'll like shut down after like a few seconds in a conversation.
Right. Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah, and I feel like that most people don't understand that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, yeah. I mean, I have my whole debates about all that stuff.
Yeah.
I think of what else to bring up. So if you've got something, let me know.
I'm curious about your position on this. What is your stance on like whether like is the N word like inherently like a bad thing for non-white or not non-white non-black people to say?
Yeah. Only white people can say that word.
Oops, showed my racism right there. Clipped.
I don't use slurs, and I wouldn't want anyone's, Twitch channel
Yeah.
to be like at risk. So you don't have to worry about me.
Yeah, I don't use them either. Like so.
Cool. I was in a debate with Gammy, and I forget what slurs they were. I don't think it was that word.
It was probably like R slur, or like the F slur, probably if I had to guess.
It was
Or the T slur. Yeah.
Something like that. And I remember Gammy was. I told Gammy, don't say slurs in the debate, and Gammy said slurs in the debate, and I felt so bad for Sonskull, who was hosting it, and I was like, oh no. And I was just like, Gammy, why? And then the poor editor who had to watch the whole thing just to find the 2 instances in the debate where Gammy said the slurs. And it was like a multiple hour debate. And I remember talking to that editor, and I was just like, oh no, so bad.
Yeah, was it Dingo?
I think it was. Yeah, something like that. Dingo or someone in that circle.
Yeah.
I mean, so that was a whole thing. My opinion on slurs is this, right? I don't like them. I don't use them. In an ideal world, I don't think that words are the biggest deal. That being said, there's just like I think there's this YouTuber. I mean, a lot of people know this. iDubbbz made this like video many years ago. I think it was about like Canamojo, and the whole like thing was.
Was it a content cop?
Yeah, it was. Like,
I watched that video.
Yeah, that makes sense. It was a very, very popular video. And it was like really stupid to put this word at a higher level. And it's like he ushered in, or maybe it wasn't entirely him, but it was this whole like idea that, well, it doesn't matter. I can say this word as many times as I want because I don't mean any racist thing behind it. Not realizing that like these people were deriving joy and deriving a sense of like, ooh, look at me, I'm saying this word that I'm not supposed to say. It's like I feel like there's like a little bit of like stuff behind there, and it's like
I feel like it's one people trying to be edgy for the sake of being edgy because they know it'll get a rise out of people.
Yeah.
and then on the other hand, there's like people that'll use it to like mask their racism, which I think is a bit of an issue too. But
absolutely.
Like, and that's
Turkey Tom.
Yeah. yeah, and I think like that's a bit of an issue too, because there can be people who are like who ironically say those things, and I think it's like Poe's law where it's like you can't distinguish between someone who's like pretending to be an idiot and who is an idiot, in that sense.
Yeah, and I'll say this, okay? I think the clear, respectable thing to do is to just realize this word is going to hurt people and is going to, because of the context behind it, because of all this stuff. So if you're going out of your way and using this word anyway, like, in an idealistic world, it would just be a word and it wouldn't matter, but we don't live in that world. But, knowing that this word is going to hurt people and you thinking you just have the right to say it because, freedom of speech, like, whatever, right? I mean, I feel like if you're doing that on purpose, you know that somebody could get, like, really, and you just don't give a fuck. So it's like this level of, like, I'm not going to go out of my way to see, like, every single instance of that word is, like, racist. Like, if somebody's, like, singing a rap song they really love by a black artist, and they, like, sing a word, like, they sing along and they happen to say that word, I don't think it's a really fucking big deal, especially if it's, like, unintentional. Like, if somebody accidentally says the word, it's very different. Like, if somebody's, like, I think that, like, there's, like, multiple instances. If someone's, like, singing along to a rap song, or, like, the word, like, slips out of their tongue for whatever reason, like, they don't mean to say it, but it just kind of happens. Because, I mean, even if we don't say it, like, we know what the word is.
Right.
So I can think of instances where it's like, it's not good, but it's like, I wouldn't say it's a good thing, but I wouldn't say it's like, cancel this person. I'd be like,
It's okay. It's just don't do it again.
I'd even go so far as Ari is that there'd be some times where like saying that slur would be completely fine if we go back to like the N-word thing. Like a white person who grew up in like a predominantly like black neighborhood, and whose like black friends like let him say that. In the context of like it refers to like their friends. Then, yeah, I think that's completely fine. Like I don't think there's like an issue with that inherently.
Well, yeah,
But if you like if you take that outside like the community, then yeah, there's gonna be issues. But I think that the ultimate goal for like if for like any word in that sense, like any slurs, that either we completely get rid of that word, or we proliferate it so much that it loses its like negative meaning.
Well, yeah. I would say like the instances, like the example you give me, like oh, a white person, being in a black neighborhood and like being allowed to say that word to refer to like your friends because that's just how they use that word. I feel like that is a case that can and probably does happen in some instances, but let's be real here, okay? It's a very small minority of cases where people use that word.
Oh, for sure. Like
using that word just because they can, you know, and a lot of times people like pretend that they're okay with it, but like really inside they're like, there's something kind of off about it. And I can't speak for everybody's situation because I'm sure some people don't care.
right.
It's just like it just doesn't seem like. I mean, there's probably some cases where it's not like a big deal. I just don't think it's a good thing to say, and it's not, because I think of like the T slur for me, right? Because I'm
Yeah.
a trans woman. I fucking hate the T slur. I don't like when people say it. I don't like when because I remember I was with I forget, it was like a trans person, and I remember being like, I said like, and I said it was like using the F slur, and it was like, you mean, and then she said the word, and I was like, why did she say the word but then use the F slur for the other word? It's like that's like saying like you respect gay people more than you respect trans people. If you're not willing to say their word, but you're saying the word that offends me to my face, like that's kind of weird. I mean, it's like really silly stuff. Like I don't like the what is it, like she-males, like the other really bad one. Like I fucking hate that word too. I mean, I guess I'm saying it, but like I'm trans and I never say those words unless it's like these very specific specific contexts where I have to like tell people what the word is. Because if I say the S word, like no one's gonna know that.
Right.
So it's just I am not a fan, and it's like these are words that are deeply offensive to people. Still to this day, a very, very deep history of that word being used. I just can't think of like an instance. To me, what's really important, okay, is if somebody is going out of their way to use that word and they don't care, they think they're being funny, and this is really what's important. It's an intentional use of the word. They're saying it on purpose, and they keep doing it and they don't care. That's when it's really a bad thing to me, right? And if it's like somebody accidentally says it once or it slips up and they're like, "Oh shit, I'm so sorry," it's like, who cares? It's okay. I can forgive you for that. Well, I guess that's not my apology, but you know what I mean.
Right.
If
Right.
they're
Like,
saying it intentionally and they're like, "Oh, I should be allowed to say the N-word," it's not a big deal. It's just like it is a big deal. Like, who are you to say? Like, and even if it's like, "Oh, well, I have a black friend who says it's fine," it's like, okay, but your black friend doesn't speak for all black people everywhere. Like, I don't know. I'm just not a fan of slurs. I don't use slurs. Other people be like, well, you say the most racist shit on Twitter. It's like, I don't think what I say is racist, but like, what I say is my opinions and ideas. It's very different to be like, I have an idea that people might disagree with, and I want to tell people what my idea is, and we can have a discussion about it. I feel like that's very different from being like, oh, look at me, I'm saying a racial slur, but it's okay because I'm not racist. I just like to use this word that really offends people of this different race because I'm Asian. Like I feel like that's different from me wanting to have a conversation, but people might view it a different way. And I've had people say when I had like tweets, like the jazz tweet, when I said like that jazz was like barbaric, when people thought it was really racist and stuff. So it was like, why don't you say the word? If you're gonna say this stuff, why don't you just say the N word? Like if you're basically, and it's like, first of all, I'm not falling into your stupid trap. I'm not a racist person. That's not who I am. I don't derive pleasure from saying racist, stupid things. It's like, I feel like what you're trying to do is you're trying to get me to say something really fucking stupid to just be like, oh my god, raise me like it's not. What they want is they want the satisfaction. They want the satisfaction of being like, oh, this person disagrees with me. let me dig up these tweets. Oh yeah, she's definitely racist, guys. I have proof that she's racist. She said this thing. It's like, I'm not gonna give them that fucking satisfaction. I see through that shit. Anyway, I talked for too long.
No, you're fine. I'm just listening along. But yeah, like I the reason why I asked that is because I was like curious about like one on how you personally use slurs, and then how like you would prescribe like other people too. And I think I figured out like that whole thing from that spiel. Sorry, that sounded a bit insulting. But
wait, why is that insulting? I think
so, I don't know. The way I said spiel, so it sounds like I'm like saying it's like a bunch of like gibberish. At least that's how I feel like I did.
It's good. I mean, like I said, here's the thing. If somebody says the N-word, I'm not going to stop being that person's friend. I'm going to be like, I don't think you should say that word. Like, if I have a friend who says that word, I'm going to say to that friend, it's like, I don't think you should use that word. It bothers me.
Right.
But I'm not going to be like, oh, I'm not going to be your friend. How dare you say that? It's like, I feel like that's a healthy thing to do. Because if you're going to be there and be like, oh my God, you're a racist, you're an evil person, it's like, it's not really super productive, right?
No,
like,
it's not.
Because it's like, I hear the situation, like a lot of young boys, for instance, like they'll have like, their edgy friends like saying like these racist things. Like, I mean, what are you supposed to do? So like some people be like, oh, well, these people are terrible people. You should just like stop being friends with them. It's like, I mean, I think the reasonable thing to do is just to go up to them. Like if you say nothing, then you're just like allowing it to continue. And it's like, I understand being afraid, but it's probably just be like,
Right.
I don't think that was cool. You probably shouldn't have said that. But just to be like don't be confrontational about it. Just like let them know how you feel, and it's probably not going to be a big deal. I mean, like
Right.
the worst thing that could happen is that they could tease you and be like, "Oh my God, it's just a word. Like, calm down." But even if that happens, it's like, I don't know. It's not like a big deal, and at least you tried. I mean, like I said, I can only speak for myself, but that's how I feel.
Right, and personally, like I tend to not use like slurs like that. Like I don't say the N-word because like I'm really uncomfortable with like even like thinking about saying it.
Yeah, fair, completely.
And same thing with like a lot of like the like other slurs like only I tend to like use it when I like quote something like the T slur, like the F slur, and I've only like done that like once around people who already know that I'm like very like pro trans and like. And who know I'm like making like a joke using like that slur, like just like to like either like make fun of the people who do that, who like use that slur like to disparage people, or is like or because like that word is used in like the in group and like it's like everyone's comfortable with using it.
Yeah, I mean,
and even then I don't use it that much. So
exactly. If you're quoting like a book, or if you're like quoting somebody else's phrase and saying what they're saying, like I don't think it's like the worst thing ever. It's just obviously when you're doing that, and I totally believe that you are, you have to like be aware that like if there's a single person in that room who's uncomfortable by you saying that, then it's like, okay, well you have to like just like not say that then. I mean it's just kind of like a situation. It's like I personally, even in that situation, I still wouldn't say that. Because it's just like
it's too uncomfortable for you.
Yeah,
like,
it's just like, to me, it's like if I'm saying it in public or if I'm saying it in private, it's like it doesn't change it for me. I would just be like, and it's like even if the context is like perfect, it's just like I don't know. It's kind of icky for me. I would rather not do that.
Yep, and
but at the same time, if I slipped up and I ever said that word, or if I ever like was like singing a rap song and I accidentally said it, I don't think that would make me like an evil fucking person. I think there's a very big difference.
Oh yeah,
being intentionally harmful with it, or just like saying it and not giving a fuck.
Right, I think evil requires intent.
Exactly. See, that's the point, right? And there needs to be some nuance there, you know?
Right, and like personally, like it, like in like an off conversation, I wouldn't like, I wouldn't necessarily like get like rag on a person if they like accidentally say it, or like they say it because like they're comfortable and they're like in group and like and all that. Like if they like continue to do that, if like people are uncomfortable, then I'm like, yeah, that's a little sus there, bud. Like that's a little weird there, buddy. You might want to check on that and all that. So
Yeah, these commentary like people just like
Yeah.
it's like, is that really like your definition of humor? Like you just keep saying it over and over again.
Right, like
Oh, weird thing, you know?
like for me, I think about like the sort of like leafies and that like all of like the edgy commentary types. Like as like a middle school boy, like I liked that content. I thought it was funny. Like,
That's fair.
but I grew out of it, and I realized like, yeah, this is a bit yikesy. Like,
Yeah, just bullying kids isn't really cool.
right? Like,
Yeah.
there comes a point where like bullying the
Yeah.
kid who wants to play Pokemon Go is like, really, like, come on, like, what did he ever do to you?
Cringy. Oh no.
Like,
Yeah.
like who doesn't do like cringy shit? Like, like at that point, like if you're making fun of someone for being like cringe, and like you make that like your whole thing, like it doesn't look good. And it was kind of shown when and going back to High Tubs when he made fun of Leafy for having no
The
chin.
kid, yeah.
like looking back at it now, I was like, holy shit, this is like the peak like of what Leafy is. He's this like person who can't take what he dishes.
No,
And I think that's what like broke me away from him initially. It was just like, holy shit, like this dude's actually like a little bitch.
Yeah, Leafy's just a very interesting person.
Yeah.
And then he like says all this offensive shit, and then he gets banned because he makes a few videos on Pokemon. It's very yeah.
I remember that too. Because I like what I was like, I wonder what Leafy's up to because I like heard about like the Pokemon shit. And I'm just like, oh, that's what he's doing. Like,
Dude, he would just make a bunch of videos about Pokemon. I think he made like 3 or something, and then eventually he just made videos with Pokemon in the title, and the whole video was just him talking about stocks. And that was the whole thing. Like, it was like, oh look, another Pokemon video. So anyway, this is what I was doing with the stocks and stuff. But it's
and
Yeah,
and now he got banned and now he's like he like said some like weird like on the edge of like a Nazi shit.
dude, I don't even know what he's up to.
Dude.
Like banned him. I don't even think what he did. Like his content after he came back from YouTube was like so much tamer than it used to be.
Right.
And it's like, I'm not saying that like Leafy's like a good person. Or
Oh no,
anything.
he's not.
Yeah, I'm just saying it's like I'm surprised that that's what they banned it for. Because like if they wanted to ban him in like 2016,
They had all the ammo for it.
exactly. It's just like that's the thing you're gonna ban him for.
Like you have the content of him just like making fun of Misha and then like your standard like haha SJW liberal cringy as fucks and then you're like random girl is like weird as fuck, the dog girl that shit, and then like the Nazi girl like
Oh yeah, the god, the dog girl.
oh my
I-
god, I remember those videos. It's like, oh my god, we're fucked.
Keemstar had this whole interview with like the dog.
Oh my god.
It was bizarre.
It was 2016 was a time.
It was a time, and honestly, the commentators now are trying so desperately to like emulate it, and it's so sad. The amount of fucking Leafy clothes there are. And
Oh.
they're all shit too. It's
I followed like one of like the Leafy clones. So I was like, all right, I want to see like what this dude's content is like. It's so fucking lame.
sad.
Like how edgy content is like fallen from grace in YouTube.
It's literally always like some 15-year-old kid.
Yes.
Gameplay, and it's just like
It's either like Borderlands 2 gameplay or like fucking like those surf runs on CS:GO. Like it's one of those two.
it's garbage content. I had one of those kids like make a video about me, and I like was watching this video, and I'm just like, this dude is trying to be Leafy so hard, and it's so sad to watch. And he's like making this video. This kid has like probably like 1K subs, and it's just like he's just doing the thing where it's like, oh, I found this SJW. He calls me an SJW. Me, an SJW. Like I don't know. Have you?
I mean, you are a woman.
I am a woman, true. Yeah, hashtag gender inclusive. I mean, I don't know. It's just silly. It's like, oh yeah, because I made a video talking about like the commentary people that he likes.
He made fun of his content daddy. That's it. Or you sorry you made fun of it, his content dad. I was
You did.
I was like doing third person shit, where I was like
Yeah, you did.
where I was like I was imagining. Yeah, sorry. Like
I sound and look like a woman, right? Like,
yeah, you are. Yeah.
okay, cool.
I think at that point I was like thinking of like Leafy as like the content daddy and like
Believe me,
yeah,
I
sorry.
believe you. 'Cause it happens. Yeah, I was making fun of, like, I wasn't making fun of. I made a video critical of like Augie, RFC, Nicholas Diorio, Jordy Tom. I mean, they're not like super big channels, but they're like, I mean, they've talked to some streamers.
Right.
They're, I'd call them like the new wave of like, I guess what like Leafy, iDubbbz, H3R, but like on a much smaller scale. I don't know.
And much more toned down. Like
Yeah. They're the new wave of edgy creators.
and it's all bark no bite.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I have other things that I gotta do before I like
sorry.
head off. No, you're fine. Like we've been going at it for like 3.5 hours.
3.5 hours. I did not expect that.
And like, oh, of course I enjoyed it too. Like this has been like a fun time for me at least. Because it's good to like at least get to like know the person who's like super controversial and all that, and it's just who's like
controversies.
right.
Styles, really edgy, like, oh my god, Rose's really super controversial.
Right, and I think like if I like look into your content a bit more, I might be like, "Yo, girl, like this shit's sussy as fuck." But like,
So, what is your impression of me before and after like this conversation? 'Cause I always notice when people talk to me and they have a fucking conversation with me, they realize that I'm actually a pretty cool person. Like
yeah, I think now you're chill, yeah. Like before, I was like, she might be a bit sussy on like a bit of things, so I might have to like.
People speak to me and they see that I'm actually like. People just need to fucking have a conversation. That's all.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
I mean, like I think another thing that people don't like is that you're like a bit clout farmy, which personally, like, yeah, I mean, like personally, like I don't care. Like hell, I even talked to you about like how you could do that. So like, I don't care.
On the internet, sue me. Like,
like in
on the internet, want attention.
Yeah, it's just yeah. And I just thought like before, like you might have had like a bit of like sussy positions that I still haven't quite learned yet because like I haven't really seen much of like your debates with other people.
Sure, I've had some cringy fucking debates and fucking cringy ass takes. I'm not gonna lie.
So which debate should I watch first?
Like what? Do you want like the worst, like the most controversial debate of mine, or do you want like the one that's like the best one that I like?
Hell, give me both.
Okay, so honestly, I've had so many debates I can't remember. I know the most controversial debates that I've ever had are the Hunter Avalon debate where I talk about the rape tweet, and then also the Destiny debate where I similarly talk about the rape tweet. Those two debates are probably the most like out there debates. I would say the first debate I had with Destiny, the one that's uploaded on my channel, the trans musician one, that one I think I did pretty good. And then the one with Vosh, I think, what was it? Wow, we disagree on pretty much everything.
Yeah, that one.
I think I did pretty good in that one. I'm trying to think. The Chud Logic one was essentially me at the end of like pretty recently, kind of like, oh, I'm, am I trolling? Am I not trolling? I don't know if it's like really a debate, more of like a discussion. I had a talk with Stardust that was like interesting. It was also about the rape stuff, but I think that was probably the best. The Stardust one about the rape thing was probably the one I best expressed myself without making myself look terrible. Fuck, I have to remember all of these debates. Fuck. Who else did I talk to? The Campbell's thing isn't uploaded. mention the. Oh yeah, fuck the Dylan Burns stuff, the hippy dippy guy.
What
I
did you debate on Hippy Dippy with?
so I did the rape thing, and then I did the some on Ukraine. Actually, I did four, I believe. I did four. I have to let me go back. I could tell you exactly what each one is. Let me. I'm sorry, this is gonna take a while. I don't, because he doesn't put my name. I wish he would have like advertised my name in the fucking like thumbnail and shit. Okay, let me find the first one. Give me 1 second. Debating trans woman on if femboys are transphobic.
Ah,
That's the first one. I think that's the first one, right? Yeah, okay. The second one is surprise guest shocks Russia apologist. He had his Ukrainian friend talk to me because I was like anti-war and I was basically being like, well, actually, I think the war should end at all costs, even if it means giving in to Putin. And that was like the whole like debate and stuff. And it was like it was an interesting. Let's see. The third one was should rapists be killed? Debate a viral tweet. It was like this anti-rape device that I thought was like a torture device. And then the fourth one was debating pacifist on if Ukraine should give up. There was another Ukrainian
yeah.
because he's from Ukraine, so it's like,
Yeah.
oh yeah. So that was four. I have actually, you know what I have? I can send this to you. I have a whole playlist called videos featuring me, and some of them are debates, some of them are not, but a lot of them are debates because I've been featuring
Gotcha.
a lot.
Alright.
And I can link that to you. And if any of them sound interesting to you, feel free to click. I mean, it's a big playlist, but it's manageable, I think.
Yeah, I'll probably listen to them while I'm playing WoW because I tend to put videos in the background when I'm playing it, when I'm like just doing shit. Because right now I'm like leveling in the game, so.
Yeah, let me know what you think. I have some of my older. Oh, I talked to Mr. Girl. I don't know if I told you that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I talked to Mr. Girl before Destiny did. I don't know if I told you that. Long story
I think
short,
Mr. Grill's very transphobic. Like,
yeah, he actually, in his debate with me, it's on my channel. He basically, there was like an audio issue, but besides that, I think it
right.
was a good debate. He was telling me that he didn't really think that trans people were like real and valid, and to me, it's like I heard him mention on his channel, but I was kind of taken aback by it. It was really interesting to have the conversation with this person and be like, "Oh shit." I don't know. It was very interesting, and I saw that this dude, he had really good production value in his videos. I thought to myself, this dude's going to be a huge YouTuber someday, and I want to interview him before he is. And I saw that in him, and I knew that was going to happen. And it's funny, I think the reason I even emailed Destiny in the first place is because Mr. Girl did, and Mr. Girl mentioned that he emailed Destiny, and I was like, well, if he could do it, I'm good. I can fucking do it. I can build
Yeah.
a resume and get myself on it, and I fucking did it. So I thought that was interesting to mention.
Yeah.
I was forgetting something. Yeah, I have the Hunter Avalon stuff because I talked to. Oh yeah, I had another debate with Hunter Avalon where it was like, basically, I forget why.
Like, was it like evolving? Like, should we kill rapists or something like that, or is it something different?
That was one of them, and that was I think the more controversial of the two.
Right.
Both more controversial. The first one, it was called "Estrogen Makes You Dumb." So I had a debate, and in this debate, I said, ever since I've taken estrogen, I feel like I've gotten worse at math. And so the whole debate was, I was basically being like, well, actually, I don't think women should, be like, we shouldn't necessarily be going out of our way to encourage women to go into these STEM fields because it's like this is a field where they have to deal with a lot of like harassment and abuse, and it's like I feel like this is something that like men more naturally gravitate to anyway. Yeah, I'm pro like traditional gender roles and shit. Obviously,
Oh
like,
boy, we could probably have a debate on that. That's simple.
I mean, I guess we could, but like the whole debate was like a little yikesy, I guess. But
Yeah.
that was what that one was about. Papa got responded to my Destiny thing. He was also another panel thing. Fuck, I had a debate with I told you like Gammy.
Yeah.
Another one with Rose Wrist. Dude, I've been on so many like fucking like I did something with Tommy Seal. If we kind of just talk about me being trans, I'm going on and off. I feel like I mentioned most of them already, and then I just have other miscellaneous ones that I've just been on. I don't know.
All right. Yeah.
I talk way too much.
It's fine. Like yeah, you talk a lot. Like I enjoy like listening. It's not that big of a deal. And then the other half of it is just that like I don't want to like cut in and like break someone's thoughts and be rude and all that unless I'm like intending to. So, and you haven't given me a reason to like be a dick. So yeah.
Cool.
So yeah, have a good night and have fun with your hiatus from the internet.
Have fun. Thank you. I'm gonna try. We're see if we're gonna end this on 3 minutes, 33 minutes, and 30 seconds. I'm gonna try to have fun. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm not leaving the internet. I'm still gonna make videos though.
Yeah. But yeah, like just take care of yourself.
I will. I'm not leaving. I'm posting videos. I'm going to do my thing. I just am staying off Twitter for now. I'll be back in a few months.
Gotcha.
When I feel better. Yeah, that's it.
All right. Well, take care.
Thanks. You too.
Goodbye.
Bye.
All right. Well, that was an interesting conversation. It went on a lot longer than I initially intended to, but hey, I enjoyed it. So why the fuck wouldn't I?